Okay, so Michael Bonacore got pulled out in an emergency, and Laura Lasita is going to lead us in an invocation. If you want to do it there, would you like us to sit or stand?
We could stand. That would be great. Why not?
If you'd like to stand, feel free.
Energizing.
There you go.
Welcome all this evening to the Riverhead Town Board meeting. Let us all bow our heads and think how that we can support our leaders and that they, our leaders, help to support our townspeople. Let us all be about clear thinking and fairness. Please let us be kind. God bless us all. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Laura. Where are you from, Miss Lasita? Where are you from?
Wading River.
Well, thank you very much. Feel free to do the invocation at any time. I do it at our family dinner. Well, it's I don't want to say a non-denominational volunteer type thing. So if anybody wants to do it, they're welcome to do it. Just call my office, and we sort of maintain a list, and that's how it works. Okay, we've got. You okay?
Yeah, I just wanted to wait.
There's going to be two resolutions I think we're going to table, but we'll talk about them later. The Highway Department transfer, because that's leaving our sanitation department without tipping fees, and possibly the home improvement street lighting one. Denise Lucas? Yes, let's go.
I know she's on my telephone.
No, that's what John did.
Yeah, we're not doing that. Okay. Thank you. That's crazy. Oh, that's crazy. Denise Lucas, why don't you...
Hi, Denise. How are you?
Hello, Jim.
Today, the town board is taking the time, as we do from time to time, to recognize those in our community that volunteer their time to try to make a difference. Denise, about a year ago, coordinated with the town for a concern that she had with the animal shelter and the condition that it was in, and how she wanted to make it a more welcoming place. So, through her own initiative, she created a 501c3 called the MTAS, which has moved the animal shelter. She's done numerous fundraising activities. She was solely responsible for a lot of the funding of the first dog park in Calverton, the Isaac Dog Park, as well as the second one that should be up in the next 6 weeks or so at Stotsky Park. It's amazing, you know, I sit on a lot of different committees and work with a lot of, not only with the town, but with churches and with the country fair, and you know, the level of dedication that she has, and it's inspiring, actually. So the town wanted to recognize her for her drive, her dedication for the animal shelter. I'll read a little bit about the whereases, because it's important that we understand animal shelters act as safe havens for homeless and abused animals, providing them with comfort and care. And especially in these challenging economic times, owner surrenders are up and have come into greater numbers to the town of Riverhead Animal Control. Denise Lucas serves as a model of commitment to animal welfare in our community by continuously fundraising to help build dog parks for our community, collect donations for the dogs housed in our town's animal shelter, and to help beautify the animal shelter's grounds. I also know that she's worked with the Girl Scouts and various other organizations and all got them on board to do community efforts along those lines as well. It's a long time coming, and this is just a start. I'd like to give out one of these every year to you, so I don't want you to stay focused on what you're doing. You're a real admiration to our society.
I promise I'll finish the project.
So we just want to congratulate you.
Quote me on that.
Oh, and he didn't say it's Denise Lucas Day.
Oh, it is Denise Lucas Day today. I wish we had an afternoon meeting so you had more of your day left, but you got 5 hours.
We could have brought a dog.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we going to, let's start with Diane, reports, correspondence. Oh, yeah, John, that's right. John,
Yes.
motion to approve the minutes?
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the minutes of August 7th, 2012, and a special town board meeting on August 16th, 2012. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The minutes are approved.
Okay, correspondence.
Okay, under correspondence, a letter from Jennifer Hartnagel expressing support for the proposed changes outlined in the Wading River Corridor Study. 2 letters from Francis Frizolowski, one in favor of proposed code change to ban right turns off East Avenue. Another letter in opposition to the proposed code change to change St. John's Place from a one-way street to a two-way street. 2 letters from a group of people, Kathy and Peter Andolina and John and Teresa Budney, letter requesting the denial of the proposed North Shore Country Plaza site plan, and their other letter expressing concern regarding the Wading River Corridor Study. Also a letter and map from Peter Danowski regarding North Shore Country Plaza at Wading River. Under applications, and these are pending town board approval, a special permit from Philip Swatkevich, reconstruction of single-family residence at 147 Washington Avenue in Jamesport. Under Chapter 90 Special Events, Antique Auto Club of America, Peconic Bay Region, a car show, September 30th at Halleckville Museum Farm in Jamesport. Church of the Harvest, free gospel concert and car show, September 8th at the Riverfront Parking Area, downtown. A proposal from Long Island Paragliding Club for permission to use part of EPCAL property in Calverton. Under reports, the sewer district submitted their discharge monitoring report for July, and also their effluent ammonia test results from April 2011 through June 2012.
Thank you.
And I think that's it.
Committee, any other reports? Supervisor's got to do it all around here. Any other reports? Town board reports?
Well, I said last town board meeting, the bike path at EPCAL has been mowed on both sides, and I see Mr. Artie Johnson in the audience who came in and said, why can't we do it? And we could do it, and we did do it. And thanks to George Woodson, who actually got his crew out there and trimmed back the path and mowed the sides of it, and people are using it. I see them parking at the dog park and getting on their bikes and riding, so that's good. And the historic district signs for our downtown area should be installed sometime this week, which is another very exciting thing that the Landmarks Preservation has been working on to identify downtown as a historic district. And we do have several old, beautiful buildings, so we'll nurture that and make downtown a better place.
Okay, any other committee reports? All right, now that I got that squared away. Thank you, Tara. We have, you read the applications, Diane? No?
Yes.
She did them all.
I'm sorry, I had to get that.
She did
microphone.
reports, she did everything.
All right, so we're going to take this a little out of order. We have 5 public hearings today, and 4 of them have to do with the Wading River rezoning. Is anybody here for the 720 consideration of a local law entitled Vehicles and Traffic for the Riverhead Town Code, hours of parking leading to the water, Meeting House Creek Road and Aquabog? Is anybody here for that public hearing? All right, what I'm going to do, because I think 7:20 will start, I'm going to open that one. We'll start that one at 7:20, and then we'll go back and cover the other ones, and I'm going to open all of them at the same time. If there's a specific reference to something in one of these statutes that should be mentioned directly for that for that public hearing, just let us know and we'll make a note. But before we even start that, Frank Fish is going to give us an overview of what we're looking at today. Yes, he is.
You can hear me all right? What I'm going to do is just summarize, because tonight we have a public hearing on amendments to the comp plan and the zoning code in regard to Wading River. So I'm going to try to summarize those along with Todd Okolachani from our office. and that's just to give a brief summary. These actions are all actions that are controlled by the town board, hence the listing of who's who that you all know here in Riverhead. The next slide, though, just goes over what they are. There's several actions. The first is to update the existing town comprehensive plan. So you have an existing comprehensive plan for the town. This is an update just with a focus on Route 25A in Wading River. So that's the first action. The second action are some zoning text changes, so word changes in the zoning in regard to Wading River, which we'll go over. And the third is zoning map changes, again on Route 25A in Wading River. So those are the actions, and hence there's a public hearing tonight to hear from all of you if you wish to comment on these actions before the town board. I'm not going to dwell on this because I've been here a few times with the same timeline. We started this, has been in process about a year now, and what we've gone over is a set of draft comprehensive plan updates back in 2011, and had a whole set of focus group meetings and then a larger public workshop, and then went into some zoning text modifications, and we're at a process now where we've got those completed. The town board has reviewed those, and hence this evening's public hearing. After the public hearing, we've prepared a environmental assessment form for the town board. So after this public hearing, the board would be in a position, perhaps, if they wish to go on and act on those environmental assessment forms, and then either revise, adopt with revisions the zoning, or not. So that's a matter of tonight's public hearing. So that's the project timeline we're on. With that, what I'm going to do is just go turn to Todd after this map, and he's going to summarize the comp plan, the comprehensive plan amendments, but it's all relates to the Route 25 a study area, basically from the Brookhaven town line up to this triangle here, or many of you know the whole Nightland Village proposal, which is not part of this action. It's currently in litigation. So we're studying that area along 25A. Some of you know all of these parcels. Partridge, Gonzalez Farm, Ken Barra's parcels here are subject to some of these changes, which you'll see. And then this small triangle here at the end of the study area. So that's the area that we're looking at. And the first action is to make some changes in the comprehensive plan for this area. And with that, I'm going to turn this to Todd.
Okay, thank you, Frank. As Frank mentioned, the first action that we're here to discuss tonight are changes to the town's comprehensive plan, but just with a focus on Route 25A and Wading River. I looked at the timeline that Frank was showing, and I noticed that we're almost at the year mark when we first started this study. And as Frank mentioned, we've been through a lot of different public meetings. We had 2 focus group sessions, and we had a very successful public workshop where about 300 of you all attended. And I could definitely tell there's still interest even going on from that workshop. So thank you for being here tonight. And through the past year, we've listened, and we've tried to listen to all the comments we received, not just at the public workshop, but at some of our smaller meetings that we've had in this very room, letters we've received as well. And I hope that we've responded to many of your comments and to the board's comments throughout this process. And hopefully you agree with some of the changes that we're recommending in the comprehensive plan update. One of the main goals or the vision for the study when we first started was to reduce some of the amount of retail along the corridor. That there was a fear that commercial strip centers would continue to be developed along the center. So one of our main goals was to consolidate and make a more compact retail center along 25A within the vicinity of Wading River and Manorville Road. And I think that some of the recommendations that we'll go through will show that we've kept that existing retail node at that intersection, but at the same time have made a more compact retail center, and we're going to allow some other residential and other types of uses that may be more compatible with the Route 25A study area. Some of the proposed zoning recommendations, we've mentioned this in the comprehensive plan as well. The zoning recommendations and zoning changes actually implement some of the recommendations that we have in the comprehensive plan update. Some of those are, as Frank mentioned, we are suggesting rezoning a couple of parcels. And we'll get into some of those slides later on when we look at some of the zoning changes, the zoning map changes. But just to give you a rough idea, we are suggesting rezoning roughly 5 parcels on the north side of Route 25A, just east of your existing commercial cluster that's within the vicinity of Route 25A and Wading River Manorville Road, and then going east all the way up to the intersection of 25A and North Country Road or Sound Avenue. So there's a couple of parcels there that we've recommended both in the comprehensive plan to rezone, and then our zoning map changes also reflect those recommendations. Another recommendation of the comp plan is to amend some of the development requirements, some of the zoning requirements in the MRP zone, which we're suggesting rezoning some of these existing business parcels, business CR zoning, to MRP. And we've suggested a couple of zoning recommendations that Frank will get into later on. And finally, the comprehensive plan, one of its major recommendations is to encourage possible future acquisition of some of the existing agricultural lands or undeveloped parcels along the corridor. So the plan does highlight that as well. This next map actually shows some of these recommendations that we suggested in the comprehensive plan, many of which, a lot of the recommendations on this plan have already been suggested or recommended and were adopted through your previous 2003 plan, and we've basically just updated this map to reflect the recommendations that we suggest in this study. As I mentioned, this is 25A. This is the intersection of Wading River Manorville Road, and just east of here is that triangle that Frank Fish mentioned at the corner of 25A and North Country Road and Sound Avenue. So our study area, one of the main acquisition suggestions was on the south side of 25A, and this is, I think, carried over from the previous plan as well, where we really felt that the community sentiment was to, if possible, to recommend possible acquisition of some of the larger undeveloped parcels, such as this one on the south side of 25A. This is a Zumas parcel. Another major recommendation in the comprehensive plan, which was carried over from the 2003 study, was a possible establishment of an access driveway behind parcels that front 25A, going westbound from the Brookhaven town line, and then connecting to Wading River Manorville Road. This is actually a recommendation that was even suggested years earlier in a plan that we did, the BFJ did, back in the 1980s. The difference being the previous recommendation for this was more of an access road, where we now suggest it as more of an access driveway, maybe a 24-foot wide width driveway, where if these parcels were developed in the future for retail uses or restaurant uses, that through the site plan process for each of those parcels, the town could possibly negotiate with some of those property owners to slowly build this access driveway behind the parcels, so that cars can avoid driving on 25A and rather drive behind those parcels. This would help, what we feel would help some of the traffic problems and some of the safety issues on 25A in that area. And finally, the zoning map might show this better, but we have suggested rezoning several parcels, as I mentioned. These parcels here consist of a Partridge family, Gonzalez Farm, and Canberra has a piece here of they're either vacant parcels or used for agriculture. And we've suggested rezoning these parcels from the current business CR zone, which currently allows retail and restaurant type uses, to what's called the MRP zone, or multifamily residential professional office zone. And that zone allows professional office uses and multifamily uses, 1 and 2 bedroom type multifamily units. The zoning map actually will highlight the suggested zoning changes, I believe, a little bit better. This first map here is the existing zoning map, and I'm going to turn this over to Frank to discuss it.
I'm just going to quickly go through the zoning now. And so the first action, Todd, is covered, and that's for the public hearing this evening. The first action, again, is to just amend the current master plan of the town, not to do a new master plan, but just to amend it for Wading River. The second action is a remapping. So this is the current zoning map. You can see the business CR zone in red, and then the MRP zone, which allows multifamily residential and professional office along the north side of 25A over to the triangle here where North Country Road comes in. So this is the existing zoning map. And the next slide will show the proposed zoning. So what's changed here is we've extended the MRP zone to replace the business CR in these 3 parcels that we just mentioned. And also we've extended the MRP to the end of the triangle to where North Country Road comes in to 25A. So in total, there's 5 sites, 5 parcels of land that are proposed to be remapped from business CR to MRP. And the reason for that is we're again trying to respond to what we heard, and that is not to have a continued strip of retail development or strip malls along 25A. We're trying to contain the basic retail center to where it is now. So the next map shows a comparison of existing zoning. This is the existing zoning here. This is the proposed zoning. So there they are. There's 1, 2, 3 parcels here in red that now would become MRP, which allows office and multifamily residential. The red allows retail and strip malls. So those 3 parcels become MRP. And then within that little red triangle, there are 2 parcels, and they become MRP also. So essentially what this is, in terms of the second action, or remapping action, is to remap 5 parcels of land from the business CR, which allows retail, to the MRP, which allows office and housing. So that's the proposed remapping action. In terms of acreage, those 3 parcels closest to the center are about 14.6 acres, and then there's 2 parcels at the west triangle, which are 1.8 acres. So the total remapping is 16.4 acres, which would go from business CR to MRP. So going from retail to office and residential. That's the essential zoning map change. Now, what does it mean? Here's the business CR zone. Here's the MRP, multifamily residential and professional office. And here is where I want to introduce the third change. We have suggested some text changes to the MRP zone. So there's a third action, and that is text changes. Right now, the MRP zone does not have a maximum building coverage for all of the uses. We wanted to make the maximum building coverage 15%. By that I mean a building like the building we're in can only cover 15% of the land area of the site. Currently in the zone it's 17% for one of the uses. We also introduced what's called an FAR. The business CR has that in the zone now. All the FAR is the number, you multiply the lot size times. In other words, if you had a 10,000 square foot lot, you multiply it times 0.20, and the resulting number gives you the amount of total square footage you can build on the site. So that controls the density of the site. And we've introduced that FAR to control density in the MRP zone. We've introduced an impervious coverage in the MRP zone, and as you can see, these are made the same as the CR zone. We've also kept the height the same. The height's 35 feet. But in the MRP zone, we've made it clear that you can do only a 2.5-story building. You cannot do a 3-story building in the MRP zone. And then in the MRP zone, we've introduced something new. It's not currently in the CR zone. We've introduced a minimum open space requirement of 20%. 20% of the land area must be kept as open space. So those are the text changes. So that's the comparison of the MRP zone. The major thing here is the MRP zone does not allow retail as a primary use. So you would not have strip commercial development in the MRP zone. Here are, just to annotate them one after the other very briefly, this is all in text form that you can read that the town has published, but the MRP zone currently allows multifamily condominiums. They're built out there, so all of you know this development that's out there. We've just made it clear that also one-family townhomes can be built. Also, we want to allow that. The town board wanted to allow agricultural production to continue in the zone and wanted to allow professional studios or performing arts studios. These were actually some suggestions made to us by various citizens at the meeting. We also pointed out that normally in most zones you do allow churches and schools, you do allow public libraries and museums. We've allowed them all by special permit. We don't necessarily, we're not aware of any particular proposal or express need, but normally we would allow these in a zone. The accessory uses, by the way, an accessory use is simply a use that's totally incidental to the primary use. But for agriculture, we did want to allow the so-called farm, being able to sell the farm stand in front of the farm. So we wanted to allow that, and that's what that accessory use is about. So that's the MRP zone. We wanted to show you in the MRP zone, mostly I've covered these already, but there was a request in the MRP zone, again from citizens, that we put a maximum unit size on. There is no maximum unit size right now. I think the concern was that there's been some experience with building, I hate to use the term McMansions, but it sort of everybody knows what it means. And we wanted to control size so it didn't get out of hand. So for a one-bedroom townhome unit, we put a maximum size of 1,400 square feet on it. And for a two-bedroom, we put a maximum size of 1,800 square feet on it, just so you get a comparison. The average single-family home size in the United States right now is reported by the Census Bureau to be 2,600 square feet. So the average single-family home is 2,600 square feet. So we put some just maximum sizes on these, just so we don't get overly large units. I've covered the 20% open space. The other thing we found out there now on 25A, there are some offices, and the office requirement for parking, we felt, is too high. Actually, the standard in the United States is what I call 4 per 1,000, one space per 250 square feet of office. You have 6 per 1,000. It's very high. It creates too much asphalt in our view, so we've suggested that that change be made. Also, if you had a mixed-use building between residential and office, the residences are not always there. At the same time, the office workers, if you had that unusual case, but it could happen where you had a mixed-use building, we're giving the planning board the ability to entertain a proposal for shared parking. Well, what do we mean by that? Well, on Saturday and Sunday, when most people are home, there's no one in the offices normally. So you sometimes in a mixed-use building do not need quite as much parking. So we've given the planning board the opportunity to take that into consideration, but it's up to the planning board on that. So then within the CR, business CR zone, there was a comment from several people that the current master plan with that driveway in the back of some of the sites south of Route 25 was not actually liked. And so we've put in some wording to make sure that that does not become a road. That is not a road proposed by the town. All it's going to be is access in the back of those parcels. And the idea is so that those parcels in the future don't create too many curb cuts, driveways onto Route 25A. They could connect in back of the parcel. And then we've just put in, this was put in, the town planning department wanted a specific section on signs to make sure that the signs would be of a uniform design in the CR. So again, I just want to summarize this very briefly then, that here's the proposal. Extend the MRP as shown here over those 3 parcels. Extend the MRP to that red on those 2 parcels, and then tighten up the wording, the text, to make sure that the densities are very tightly controlled compared to what they are. And we think if this happens, that it will stop the expansion of strip commercial development and will have some favorable environmental benefits. So with that, I want to turn it just back to Todd very quickly, and then we'll conclude this presentation. We do see some benefits to the proposed MRP zone on these 5 sites, and we've summarized them.
What this slide sort of summarizes is some of the differences between what the MRP zone currently says and what we've added to that, and also some of the benefits of the MRP zone compared to the current business CR zoning. As Frank mentioned, we did add a couple of changes to the MRP zone. The first is, the current MRP currently allows maximum building coverage of 17% for only professional office uses. So we've added or suggested maximum building coverage of 15% for all uses. So that would apply to both residential and office uses. We've also suggested, as Frank mentioned, a maximum FAR of 0.20 and a maximum 75% impervious surface cover. These were 2 suggestions that these requirements are currently not in the MRP zone, so we would add those to the new MRP zoning text changes that we've suggested. We've also, Frank mentioned some of these, we've suggested limiting the dwelling unit sizes in MRP, and another benefit of the MRP zone is it allows agricultural uses. Currently, the MRP zone does not specifically mention agricultural uses as a specifically permitted use. We thought it was appropriate to add agricultural uses as a permitted use to continue to allow those agricultural uses that are there today if those property owners decide to continue agricultural production. Finally, the MRP zone, by reducing the office parking requirements, by having a parking requirement of 1 space per 250 square feet instead of 1 per 150 square feet, as Frank mentioned, that would greatly reduce excess pavement and asphalt that's really not needed. The 1 per 150 parking requirement for office uses is not a standard parking requirement in most areas. So the new requirement of 1 per 250 square feet would greatly reduce some of the parking and asphalt that's probably not needed for that type of use. One of the next steps in this process is the town board will have to navigate through the SEEKR process. And if you're familiar with SEEKR, that stands for the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. And as a requirement of SEEKR, we are charged with analyzing some of the potential impacts of the changes that we're suggesting with the zoning map, the zoning text changes, and the comprehensive plan update for 25A. So what we've done on this slide, and we've also submitted this in the form of a full environmental assessment form that we've prepared, is we've analyzed for the 16.4 acres that we're suggesting should be rezoned from business CR to MRP. We've compared what would happen in the future if those 16.4 acres were developed under the current business CR zoning, and compared that to what if those 16.4 acres were rezoned to MRP and what the type of impacts would be with the proposed rezoning. So just going over one by one. The build out or the density, using the current zoning requirements of the town, in the business CR zone, if those roughly 16 acres were developed in the future, it would result in about 143,000 square feet of retail or restaurant uses. With the proposed rezoning, it greatly reduces the amount of potential square footage that could be developed. What we've done here, we've had to make some assumptions. Based on the current layout of the uses that are developed today in the MRP zone, there's roughly about a 75% to 25% mix of multifamily units to office uses. That's there today on the north side of 25A, just west of North Country Road and Sound Avenue. You have a mix of about 75% residential to about 25% professional office. So we've used that same mix of uses that in the MRP zone, because multifamily and office uses are permitted, we've suggested or analyzed or assumed that 75% of the 16 acres would be developed as multifamily and roughly 25% would be developed as professional office. Now this yields about 36,000 square feet of future professional office square footage and about 65,000 square feet of multifamily square feet, which yields roughly 36 dwelling units, assuming that those were all built as two-bedroom units. So what type of impact would 36 dwelling units have in impacts on your school district? We've determined and analyzed the number of public school children that could occur as a result of the MRP zone change. And it's a very, very small impact to the school district that if 36 units were developed, it would only yield about 4 to 6 public school children. And when we analyze the amount of school children,
Guys, calm down. Let him finish.
we actually, there's analysis we use, there's multipliers we use from Rutgers University that tells us how many school children are normally would occur from various types of residential development. Now what we did is we took the suggestion of Sid Bale and others to look at how many school children are currently produced by the residential condos that are there today on 25A. And then the two residential condominiums on 25A within the study area, there's roughly 64 dwelling units and only about 6 public school children. That's the factor of there today. There's about 6 public school children that attend the school district from the current condominiums on 25A. We've used that same factor to determine how many public school children would occur in the future with the possible 36 dwelling units, and it comes out to about 4 to 6 public school children, which is a similar amount to what's there today from the current condominiums on 25A within the study area. The next impact we looked at was traffic generation and parking. And under the current business CR zoning, during the AM peak hour period, you would have roughly 143 cars traveling on 25A. And during the PM peak hour period, just during the peak hour period, a 1 hour period during the evening hours, would yield about 533 vehicles on 25A. As you can see with the proposed MRP zoning, you would have substantially less traffic generation. This is true of residential uses in particular, typically generate less traffic than a retail or restaurant use would generate. Number of parking spaces. Using the town's current zoning requirements for retail uses, if the 16.4 acres remained as business CR and those parcels were developed, it would yield roughly 714 parking spaces to meet the town's parking requirements. Within the MRP zone, it would only result in about 197 parking spaces. So we feel that this would greatly reduce the impact on parking and traffic and the amount of asphalt and impervious surface cover. In analyzing all the impacts, we feel that all the impacts of the proposed zoning changes and comprehensive plan update are actually beneficial. you would have less density with the MRP zone, less impervious surface cover, less traffic and parking, a very small impact to the school district. And it's important to note as well that when we looked at the school district, so we knew this was an issue with many of you, that we noticed that within the last 5 years, there's actually been a decrease of about 250 public school children in the school system. So we feel that adding roughly 4 to 6 children or even 10 children would be a very small impact on the school system, considering that there's actually been a substantial decrease within the last couple of years. Finally, we feel that another major positive impact would be the community character. That we're suggesting that with these requirements that it would reduce impervious surface cover, it would enhance the buffers from the roadway, and these are some of the recommendations that we feel would greatly fit more in with the character of 25A. So in conclusion, we feel that there's no significant adverse impacts as a result of the proposed zoning changes or comprehensive plan update. Just to wrap up briefly, to give you an idea of what some of the next steps are. Obviously tonight we welcome your comments on some of the recommendations that we've gone over. Next month will be really the action by the town board on the state environmental quality review process. The town board will declare itself as a lead agency and navigate through the seeker process next month in analyzing some of the impacts in the full environmental assessment form that we've submitted to the town. After that, the town board will act, if they choose, to adopt the comprehensive plan update for Route 25A. They will also act on the zoning text changes that we've gone over, as well as the zoning map amendments.
All right, great. Frank, Todd, thank you very much. What I'd like to do is we're going to open the public hearing that was scheduled for 7:20. Sir, you might have to step away from the podium because people may speak there. We'll take this slightly out of order. We've got a public hearing scheduled for 7:20. And this is, I'm going to open that 7:20 having arrived. I'm going to open the public hearing for the consideration of a local law amending Chapter 101 entitled Vehicles and Traffic of the Riverhead Town Code. No parking, certain hours, road leading to water, parking by permit, Meeting House Creek Road, Aquabog. John, this is
Okay.
one of yours?
Yes, this is, all we're doing here is that we have only one street that leads down to the water that has parking restrictions from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And everybody thought it was 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., so no one would park overnight. What we're changing it to is that you can park there with a resident permit down the street to the bay. So that's what we're changing it to.
Okay. Does anybody wish to be heard on this matter? Not seeing anybody. I'm going to close the public comment portion of the meeting, and we'll leave it open for written comment till Friday, August 31st. It's unbelievable. The summer is quickly. You can see it in the morning when you wake up. 5:30, it's dark. We'll leave it open until August 31st, 4:30 in the town clerk's office. All right. What I'm going to do is open up these 4 public hearings together, but before I do it, everybody that wants to speak is going to get the opportunity to speak. What I'm going to ask Frank and Todd to do, we're not going to do an exchange back and forth and have them jump back and forth. They're going to write down your comments, and at the end, they will speak about the comments, answer any questions that we can answer. Maybe there's questions that we can't answer, but we'll endeavor to do our best. We ask you to be as concise as possible. We will allow everybody that wishes to speak. If it seems to be that it is completely repetitive, you are allowed to repeat yourselves, but we would prefer, because there's a lot of people in here, and we would prefer that if you would, have something that you agree with somebody else, just state that you agree with that person and the points, and then get on to the other points. That way we can move through it and get to the, get everybody in as, expeditiously as possible. So what I'm going to do, we have four public hearings. 7:05 having arrived and left, I'm going to open the public hearing for a consideration of a proposed amendment to the Town of Riverhead Comprehensive Plan adopted November 2003. Second public hearing that we're going to open is scheduled for 7:05. It's a consideration of a local law amending Chapter 108 entitled Zoning of the Riverhead Town Code, Multifamily Residential Professional Offices. 7:10 having arrived and left, we're going to open a third public hearing, the consideration of a local law to amend the zoning use district map of the Town of Riverhead to provide for multifamily residential zoning use district to the exclusion of the existing business CR zoning use district at 25A and Wading River. And finally, 7:15, having arrived, we're going to open the public hearing for a consideration of a local law amending Chapter 108 entitled Zoning of the Riverhead Town Code, Business CR Zoning Use District, Rural Neighborhood Business. All the public hearings are now open. We've given a very broad overview of what the public hearings are about from Frank Fish. And so we're going to...
Can I just say something? I just want to say, everybody here has driven down Route 25A. And once you enter the area where the professional offices there, the red brick buildings, and then after that you have the two condominium complexes, and then after that you have the business complexes where we have the daycare center and the other office buildings in that complex. This is going to mirror that all the way to the ice cream shop, where it used to be the ice cream shop. So this will mirror that all the way to there. So if you dislike what's there, then you're going to dislike this, okay? If you like what's there, you're going to like this zoning on that side of the road, all right? So I just want to put it in plain language. I mean, I know we listen to these two learned people, but the plain language is what you have there now is what's going to be extended to the ice cream parlor. It used to be the ice cream parlor. So that's basically on the north side of Route 25A. On the south side of 25A, you have the CVS, and right next to CVS, you're going to have more commercial up until the Boy Scout camp where the woods start. After you have the woods, then the rest of 25A, all the way down to 25, is open space, and the cemetery is there, the Boy Scout camp is there. So, I mean, that's what's going to stay on that side. On west of Route 20, Wading River Manor Road, where McDonald's is, and the other drugstore are going to be commercial pieces. I think there's 4 commercial pieces there. They're going to be commercial, and they're going to have a so they don't have to keep coming out on the road. They're going to have just a driveway between the commercial properties. So once you get into the commercial properties, you can drive all the way down to McDonald's and not come out on 25A. So that's what basically is proposed here in my term, layman's terms, okay? So I just wanted to, most of you probably know that, but I just want to let you know, okay?
Good job, John.
John,
Thank you.
You did what Frank Fish took 40 minutes to do.
That's it, see? Thank you, okay?
Pete Danowski, I guess you're standing there.
Let me preface, it's proposed.
Yeah, I think one of the other comments for the public, will you be
You just state
keeping
your name.
Pete Danowski, 616 Roanoke Avenue, Riverhead, New York. I do represent several clients who are affected by the proposed zone change. But I was just curious procedurally before I talk about the merits of the application. Will you keep the hearing open or close it at tonight's session, and will there be a time for the public and anyone else to make written comment after tonight's meeting?
As I always do, I will close the public comment portion tonight. I'll leave it open for written comment until August 31st, 4:30 p.m. in the town clerk's office.
Thank you very much. I did make mention that I have several clients who are affected by the proposal to change zoning. Connie Partridge and her sisters own a piece. It's been described and commented on in the public, and I would like to put up a board presentation for the general public to look at because I think the revised plan, which was submitted to the planning board for their consideration and vote, is a very attractive plan and sort of belies some of the comments concerning the detail about it. So I'd like to, if you could, allow me to use this tripod, put the plan up.
Peter, I'd rather you put it outside. Can we put it outside? Just on the table outside for people?
I'll do anything you want, but I think the public here would like to see it.
Yeah, no,
and it's been criticized as to comment. I'll put it outside.
Yeah, no, Peter, I'd rather you put it outside just so we don't have board members coming back and forth during people speaking. So I don't care if you want to pass it through the audience and put it outside, or just put it outside is fine. I just don't want to have people coming back and forth.
I'll listen to your direction. We'll put it anywhere, and I'll make comment about it. This plan has been distributed to town board members as well as the planning board, and is available at the town clerk's office as well. It's been made part of the record here. But let me make comment on it, and I will, walk this out the door and put it in the back.
Peter, do you have a smaller version? Peter, do you have a smaller? Pass it around, Peter. What the heck?
Pass it around. I don't want to be the first guy.
Peter, do you have? And then when whoever gets it last, can you just put it outside?
Sure.
Helga, that's what we don't want. No, we want it to go outside. This is what we don't want. We want it to go out. Helga, please, pass it around and then put it outside. Okay. Peter? Peter, I'm going to wind up using the gavel for the first time in 2.5 years. I can see.
Just commenting on the plan that's been looked at. Some of the public comments that I want to correct as to the facts with regard to the revised plan. Each of the buildings is no more than 10,000 square feet. A central square is provided. Landscaping in excess of the town requirements is provided. The town required 2-inch rainfall on site on the commercial part of the development is provided. A safe overflow, as recommended by most engineers, is provided. And this is a very, very attractive, not strip mall, but a central square plan that I've asked the planning board to promptly approve. This matter has been in the process before the planning board since December 5th. And the client has every reason to think that this has been purposefully delayed, not by this board, but it's a fact that we submitted the application on December 5th. It's a fact that we just reacted to public comments and made revisions, and they've been submitted, and it's part of the town clerk's file now on the record here. My clients, their family have owned this property for a long, long period of time. The Congelos sisters own this parcel. Carney Partridge, married name is Partridge, has moved forward with this plan relying on the zoning in effect at the time of the submission. We've asked the town assessor to address the question of potential tax revenue to the town, and the estimated tax revenue is $233,000. Similar amounts would be forthcoming from the other developments that could be built under existing zoning. Ken Barra, who's here tonight, and the Barra family, with regard to their parcel, the estimated tax revenue on the plan that they have had approved for a country inn and restaurant, all right, the revenue there was suggested to be $195,000. So again, these are tax revenues coming to the town when the town's in dire need of tax revenue. I want to hand up also the approved plan that was approved several years back. It was not built, but is a country inn and restaurant on the Barra parcel. Everyone knows Kenny's expertise, if nothing else, is in the restaurant business. Your proposal tonight is to drive out restaurants as a permitted use. If nothing else, restaurants should continue to be allowed.
Okay, Peter, pass it around. Okay. All right.
Again, being passed around is the approved plan that Ken Barra had approved. And what I will do tonight for the town clerk's record is, again, hand up a copy of that approved plan so anyone that doesn't see it tonight can visit the town clerk and see it. I'll also hand in the resolution of approval as well as the estimation with regard to real estate taxes. Some of the other comments concerning even the small touches on some of the rezonings, and I did hear the comment about the private driveway. The private driveway on the other side is further...
Hold on, Peter. Can we just have some respect for the speaker, please? Thank you.
The private driveway, although it sounds good to say we're not suggesting a public road, and a driveway that will carve through the back of these parcels, you must understand many of these parcels are burdened by a useless easement now, and that easement is close to Route 25A. So the developers really don't want to use that easement. No one is suggesting so close to 25A it serves any purpose, but it was placed on a subdivision map. So I think when you gather up suggestions, one of them should be the town on their own motion or application should seek to extinguish those old cross-access easements that are permanently put on the property unless with permission of the planning board they get extinguished. Also, you have to look at the back of these properties and the other laws that might apply. And for those fans that like open space and don't like improvements through the back of properties with a cluster theory, and for those of you also thinking about the rules with the Suffolk County Health Department, you may find out that some of the suggestion of carving this driveway to the rear of the properties won't work. I think what will work, and I think what most planning board members and planning staff would suggest, is as developments take place to the very physical end of their development, before you get to the clustered open space, basically through the middle of the properties, when your yield is considered under existing zoning, you would put together a plan that would try to encourage all the developers to join together and have this cross-access easement. So I'm not against the concept of having cross-access easement. I'm not against providing an alternate way to go out without going to 25A. What I'm saying is there are so many arguments against every plan that gets submitted, and there are so many pushes in different directions, that when you want to talk about creating some open space to the back of parcels, when you want to talk about laws and regulations and rules depending on where you are with that lot, you get pushed in different directions. And I don't think this private roadway system will necessarily meet all the burdens you have at the end of the day. I just throw it out there. But for Ken Barrow, getting back to the main topics here on use, you know, Kenny has been through a lot. His family's been through a lot. I think most people, not all, will say he does a wonderful job landscaping his current business at East Wind. It's a very, very attractive site. He employs a lot of people. He pays a lot of taxes. And he's owned this particular land for a good number of years. Over 10 years, he's owned this property and paid taxes on it. And I know there are other people that opposed his project on Park Road. You know, at the end of the day, that project should have been built. The court system successfully defended him in his position, and it should have been built. But he agreed to sell. He agreed to sell at a loss. And to date, that has not closed. We were originally told early on, well, in the spring, maybe we'll have an authorizing resolution from the county legislature, and maybe at the end of the day, we'll have a signed contract. That came and went that time period. Then the summer came up. Well, I think we're going to get to you in the summer. Now we're being told in the fall. I have serious doubts whether that property will be acquired. If it is, for those that want the acquisition, Ken Barra cooperated. But right now, there hasn't been an authorizing resolution, and there's no increase to the tax base in the town. So what I'm saying to you is, be fair, recognize the tax revenue, certainly want attractive development. Certainly if you're a fan of clustering, then keep some open space in the back. We have high tension wires in the back of these parcels that are suggested to being rezoned. Do you really suggest residential homes should be built near the high tension wires? And I heard some of the opposition from people. I still remember the one that at the church where you had the informational meeting where someone said, I just bought a condominium on 25A and it is so noisy that who would want to live here? And so we're suggesting now you're either going to put residences back against the high tension wires or up close to Route 25A, neither of which I think is a good idea. Well, you've limited as to density and size, so it's like an affordable housing situation, but quite frankly, there's not enough density to make any developer want to build it. Now you do the flip side. One of the nice things in the town, over the years, you had a floating zone called a PB overlay. And a lot of nice old historic homes were turned into doctors' offices and lawyers' offices and other professional offices. We want to encourage that. We want to see preservation of older homes. So I think office space, can go in different directions. And we certainly have a lot of very nice, attractive professional office space. But you have to ask the flip side to the retail question, how much professional office space do you need? And when you don't allow a restaurant to dovetail with a professional office where you have parking at different times of the day, you're really hurting that project. So quite frankly, for those that want to see nothing get built, if you adopt this zoning, nothing will get built. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter, I will say, just for the record, I believe it was the intention of the board, if this were adopted, that easement along the front on 25A, it's a town board easement. A town easement, as I understand it, we would want to extinguish that as part of moving it to the back. So that wouldn't be in the zoning. I said it wouldn't be in the zoning, but it is part of the town's intention to extinguish that easement because it would be duplicative at that point. Ms. Mendez, just state your name for the record.
Dominique Mendez, Wading River, Riverhead Neighborhood Preservation Coalition. So you're going to have to bear with me because I thought you were doing, I have comments on, the various public hearings that you're supposed to have. It's interesting to note that the site plan that Mr. Danowski just passed around and said actually that, there have been misstatements about that site plan. No one has seen that site plan. It was just submitted, I think, last Thursday or Friday. No one, I think, in the public or the civic community has seen that. So all the comments we made were on the last version of the site plan, not on this version that we have not seen yet. And I should also note to everyone that as we get all excited about maybe not so excited, but somewhat excited about the possibility of rezoning 5 parcels, you should realize that, that proposal is for a parcel that is slated for rezoning for this board. This board is considering rezoning, and in fact, they were talking about rezoning this parcel before that site plan was submitted. So the property owner knew, or should have known full well, that his parcel was likely to be slated for rezoning. And the site plan came afterwards. And again, this is a brand new version of the site plan that we haven't seen yet. So wanted to start actually talking a little bit about the overall zoning. So like I said, it's pretty easy to get excited when you talk about 5 parcels possibly being rezoned and they wouldn't allow retail. But the fact is that when you look at the 5 parcels going east to west. The Valero, well, that wasn't going to become a store or restaurant. The 1.8 acres right next to it of woods, that's not a very, even here they said, not the most developable parcel in the world. Probably didn't pose much risk of lots of retail. Then you get to the Barra parcel. That's the one where we always have the 4th of July carnival, and there's definitely development potential there for some sort of huge restaurant catering or retail or something. There's definitely the possibility. And so if that were rezoned, it would eliminate that possibility. So that would be something. The next parcel is the Conzella parcel. And that's being farmed right now, as we all know. I don't think that those Conzellas have any intention of giving up the farming. So that probably didn't have any short-term potential to go to retail, although 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road, maybe. And then we have the Partridge parcel, and you see the development potential because he passed it around. So that's the development potential there. So we talk about 5 parcels, but in reality, if you talk about the 2 with the short-term potential, what this rezoning could prevent is 75,000 square feet of retail. But it's hard to get too excited about that because that plan is for over 40,000 square feet of retail, and it's on one of those parcels. So that brings that number down because you got to wonder why they're going forward and spending this when even if they had a plan approved, it wouldn't vest them in rights. So they seem to know something we don't know, because the town board has been talking about rezoning the whole time, yet they're going forward with a site plan that would be prohibited by this new rezoning, even if their site plan were approved. So it makes one wonder if that will end up even sticking on their parcel, and that's a real concern. So I want to talk about MRP just a little bit, and I wanted to state that the RNPC basically supports the currently recommended zone changes to MRP, as they replace some of this potential retail with less impactful uses. And I'm going to skip through some of what I was going to say. But that being said, we also think the currently proposed changes fall short of doing enough to prevent the excessive retail overdevelopment and to adequately preserve the small town charm of Wading River. Thus, we continue to urge the town board to take more steps. So one of the things that's noted and that's been mentioned, and it's in the Planning and Zoning report, is this rationale for more retail, and it's supposedly because tourists and commuters pass through Wading River on their way to other places. I believe that demand's greatly exaggerated. The new retail actually, I think, would hurt our local economy, and it completely disregards the community's own vision for Wading River. Our vision for Wading River is clearly not and has never been to provide shopping opportunities for commuters, tourists, and every other passerby. Even the codified intent of the BCR zone acknowledges that Wading River's retail should be, and I end quotes, this is directly from the code, geared primarily towards providing daily services to residents in the adjacent residential areas. The community has said over and over throughout the decades that it does not want to become some shopping destination, and just about everything in the record except this faulty rationale supports that. What's critical to understand is that although the currently proposed zone changes would eliminate some, or maybe a little bit, of the excessive retail in Wading River, it still leaves the possibility for over 200,000 additional square feet in the future, and even more if we add in that other parcel, that proposal that he showed you, North Shore Country Plaza. Studies have shown there's not nearly enough demand for that retail. The BFJ, the Urbanomics study, said there could be demand for up to 20,000 square feet more retail. Then they recently upped that figure miraculously to 88,000. That's still not close to 200,000 or 245,000 if you add that parcel. So it's just, there's this huge gap here. And when you have a gap like that, what we think is going to happen is the local merchants are going to go out of business. We'll have blight from empty storefronts, and it'll irrevocably change the character of Wading River. The vast majority of residents in Wading River moved here because it's not overdeveloped like so many towns to our west. That's what makes Wading River and the Riverhead hamlets so special. We don't need or want 50, 80, 100 more stores, restaurants, and banks, and we're relying on you to save our town from the blight that plagues so much of the rest of the island. We continue specifically to urge you to rezone 2 key parcels from BCR to MRP. The parcel east of the CVS, owned by the Zumas family, that this board originally, until the county backed out of the purchase, or there was no deal between the two, originally supported, used to support that. We urge you to think about that again, rezone that MRP. You also can rezone the parcel everyone's been avoiding, which is the 25A and Sound Avenue intersection, the parcel that Nightland is proposed for. Again, there's no vested rights, property rights on either one of those. You guys actually have the power to rezone both those parcels. But if you choose not to make those optimal changes, here are some other suggestions, and some of these you've heard before, haven't heeded yet, but we're hoping you will. You could rezone some parcels west of the 25A Wading River Mantle Road intersection to MRP. That's not our ideal, but we need to get rid of some of the more of the excessive retail. You could also lower the maximum building lot coverage for Wading River on BCR from 15 to 10%. That's how it is in Jamesport's RLC zone. So at least if we had more development, it would be less development, and that would help make up that gap and make us be a little less over-retailed. We also continue to urge the town to add more buffering requirements to the MRP zone to adequately screen new development from 25A. If you require a substantial screening, including evergreens between new homes and 25A, that'll be critical to the quality of life in those neighborhoods. And it'll give a much better appearance from the road. We also ask that you consider requiring a 50-foot front yard for all new development in all new development. That's MRP and BCR. Appearance counts a lot. And the more new construction is set back from the road and recedes behind a nice row of trees, the less overdeveloped Wading River will at least appear to be. But something we don't want you to change in the MRP zone is you have permitted use number 4, and it allows one-family townhomes or multifamily units. That or multifamily units could actually end up allowing apartments in the end. There's no reason. Condos have worked well. Townhomes are similar to condos. They are owner-occupied. But multifamily opens it up to other uses, and that I don't think the community supports. The community hasn't asked for, and they're not necessarily consistent with the community. So we ask that you scrap that permitted use. On the BCR, this one's very quick. We again support the basic changes to the BCR, fixing it so that 10,000 square foot building is the maximum, not a 10,000 square foot store. Requiring uniform signs in shopping centers, good ideas. But again, you can do more. You can lower, like I said, lower that maximum building lot coverage, and again, increase from 25 to 50 feet, increase that buffer zone. And that's what you can do in the BCR to make that better, besides, of course, rezoning more parcels. I'm going to go on to the last. We also support the revised comp plan with a few tweaks that we noted in a comment letter that I'll be giving to you. But I'd be remiss if I didn't make a few points. The biggest flaw of the study, as reflected in the comp plan, is that it neglects to consider the land currently zoned for retail that is farthest from the commercial center of Wading River, which is where the beverage center is in the woods behind it. That was a huge missed opportunity. It must also be noted that this triangle of land that Nightland Village is proposed for is part of the study area per the town's contract with BFJ, although the BFJ and the town later chose to exclude it from their considerations. That decision was extremely unresponsive to a community that has repeatedly expressed grave concern about this particular project. The appropriateness of that type of project in a particularly troublesome location and its potential to change the character of the community. Furthermore, I must publicly object to the Planning and Zoning Report's characterization of the decision of the Town Board and BFJ to exclude that parcel from the study as the public's fault for filing litigation. To blame residents for using the only recourse left to us to address what we see as violations of state environmental law and town zoning ordinances is disingenuous at best. We tried for nearly a year to get this board to impose a moratorium because we knew that an approval would be reason enough for this board to exclude the parcel for rezoning consideration, and that even substantial progress on a site plan would jeopardize the integrity of the process. The theory that litigation compromised the study has been repeated over and over since last fall, and I just needed to publicly state in the record what I think is a more accurate representation of the situation. On behalf of the RMPC, I must also note that the 25A Wading River Corridor Study cannot be considered a substitute for the generic environmental impact statement required by the State Environmental Quality Review Act in cases where the cumulative impact of multiple projects is likely to have a negative impact on the environment, economy, or community character of an area, as it did not attempt to study the impacts of the proposed projects. I am concerned that if Riverhead Town continues to approve projects within this corridor without performing a GEIS, it does so at the risk of continuing to be in violation of SECRA. I urge this board to take the responsibility you have to the community to heart and to consider making some of the additional changes. Don't allow the hamlets to be overrun by retail. The vast majority of us do not want or need. Don't draw customers away from Riverhead businesses and local merchants who need our patronage. Don't enable Wading River and the next hamlet to be transformed into some typical over-retail town to our west. With all those empty stores, this community has been asking for its local government to protect it from this fate for decades. And so far, local government's efforts have come up short. So maybe you didn't have a great start, and maybe the process was flawed, but you can still do a lot right by this community if you step up to the plate now. Thank you.
Sir, if you'd state your name and hamlet for the record.
My name is Mark Kramer. I live at 2963 North Wading River Road.
You don't have to tell us where you live, just
Okay.
not the physical address. Nobody's coming to visit you. It's just your hamlet.
You're welcome. I just want to say one thing that I said at the church meeting a few months ago. We have plenty of shopping, plenty of restaurants right here in the town, right in Wading River. We don't need any more. We don't need any more in the middle of Wading River on 25A. That's all I have to say.
My name is Ellen McWilliams. I live at Great Rock Development in Wading River. And contrary to what a lot of people feel, Dominic Mendez does not represent my neighborhood. Okay, I am here to support a very experienced businessman, Ken Barra. Okay, I challenge you people that are here. Have you seen the site that is going to be built? Okay, the economy is in dire straits. Okay, we need jobs. Where is the tax revenue going to come from in the future? If everything, it's nice to live in Disney World and have all this vacant land. When I moved here 8 years ago, I had to pay $6,000 just to move in here, and the person that sold their house to me had to pay $6,000 to move out, to preserve the land. How long is this going to last? How long do you think this, I can't afford to live here anymore. My taxes are getting so high. So is this?
Excuse me.
Maybe you can afford.
Respectful. Go ahead.
So to create jobs, create tax revenue, okay, I'm here to support the Barra family and the other retailers.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Deirdre Dubato. I am representing myself and the the Wading River Veterinary Hospital. Anybody here have dogs or cat and come to us right now? We've been in town for about 6 years. I'm almost going to beg Frank and Todd, if there's can you flip your thing back on?
It's off.
It's off?
Yes.
Alrighty. If you remember at the very beginning of their presentation, to the west side, does everybody know where Bernie May is, his farm? The piece exactly adjacent to Bernie on the west, everybody forgets I'm there. That's a vacant strip of 1.3 acres. We currently have a proposal that we would like to have our animal hospital built there. We are currently renting where you come to see us now there in the little shopping center on the north side. That 1.3 acres has the easement across the north side of it that you talked about on your own motion. You were planned to get rid of it.
Correct.
I'm just wondering a few things about that. Number one, I saw the proposal to put the driveway across those pieces at the back.
It's going to be more of a cross-access easement than a driveway, similar to what we're doing along Route 58. So you shopping center to shopping center, there's connections. may not look like a formal road. It may just be an opening from one parking lot to the next.
Well, I totally understand that, but right now we've kind of been told to stop. We can't move forward with putting the animal hospital up that we need to put up. We've been growing in a very small space, basically because they say nobody on the town board knows what they're doing about that easement yet and getting rid of it. That's what I was told by those people who represent myself, my husband, George, and my son, Scott, both of whom are veterinarians there. My baby Scott's there on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Go see him. But anyway, so I'm just hoping that happens, let's say, in the next month or so.
We're hoping to move forward quickly.
Does that mean month or so?
We're hoping to move forward quickly.
Remember, your mother's listening to this somewhere, wherever she is.
Up there.
Forward. Moving forward means moving forward. I don't have that kind of money. We're just one little mom and pop shop. By the way, I know the lady who was speaking with the long speech was saying about removing the CR, the country rural development to the west of the road. If you do that, you happen to take a 6-year mom and pop shop that is thriving right now in Wading River and ruining the chance that we get to develop it, put the actual building up, and move into it. We would have done that 6 years ago, but we were smart and said we have to grow the business. Anyway, getting rid of that strip is number one. I'm urging you, can you please do that soon? Number two, as far as the easement is concerned, does it have to be at the back? Sean, listen to me, Sean.
We're trying to make it to the back because they can go from one shopping area to another shopping area.
Well, one of the things that the town board is recommending to me and my husband and my son is that we take that little 1.3, not put up one building, but make it into 2 small buildings, push one to the back and one to the front. For us, putting that in the back is against what you've actually told us to do. So we said, fine, we'll have a cross easement through the middle of the property, which would mean the property to our east and our west someday would just cut through the middle of theirs if and when they ever get around to developing. Is that something that we can say is a possibility?
I think that's something that you could say is a possibility. I know we talked about a road, but
I can say, and as sitting in the planning board work sessions and watching applicants come in, that the 1989 study that was done showed the easement or the roadway to go right in the middle. And that became very burdensome for developers because they were complaining that they had to build 2 buildings because this road would go right through their 1 building, which is why I believe the study shows now that it's pushed in the back so that 1 building could be built rather than building 2 buildings around a road through the middle.
All right, but if it stays in the if it's in the middle, you're fine. Yes?
Well, that's what the supervisor
we can
said.
answer right now.
We can't answer that question.
Gosh, I thought I had you captive. All righty, thank you very much. And when my time comes up for public hearing for my building being built, I certainly hope all of our clients who are in town and here tonight come and support us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
No applause for Apple Hospital.
Can we get your, Miss, can we get your name and hamlet for the record?
Diane Sadoe, resident of Wading River. In 1970, Joni Mitchell wrote and sang this song titled Big Yellow Taxi. Since it best conveys my concerns about the proposed developments along the Wading River 25A corridor, I quote in part, "They paved paradise and put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hot spot. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They've paved paradise and put up a parking lot. They took all the trees and put them in a tree museum, and they charged all the people $1.50 to see 'em. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They've paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Hey, farmer, farmer, put away that DDT now." They did that. "Give me spots on my apples and leave me the birds and the bees, please. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got until it's gone? So please be careful as you pave our paradise. Leave the trees, plant some more, and put up, if you must, a very small parking lot." Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Dan, next time you have to sing it.
I like John Mayer's version, but that's
Go ahead.
Good evening, Martin Sanluski Calverton. I just have a quick comment about the change in the CR zone on the buildings with floor area exceeding 10,000 feet being prohibited. Just to make a point, in the definition section of the town zoning ordinance, you have one definition for building area, which includes covered porches, and you have a definition for commercial floor area, which excludes it. So if you could just clarify in the code, and I would prefer that it be clarified that it be a 10,000-foot building excluding covered walkways, so that if you have a store, you have a veranda out front or whatever, it's not included in the footage, just as a housekeeping issue. Also, just a quick note on the cross easements. I was going to comment about that, but I mean, it works all over town. I don't know why the town's micromanaging it, saying it's got to be a driveway or road.
Yeah,
just
I
make
agree.
it an agreement between neighbors.
Right.
It's been doing that forever. I don't see why you'd micromanage that. That doesn't make sense.
Thank you. Sorry, that was it.
Now, getting to the a couple of the questions I had were already answered by the consultants. I won't get into them, but it answered that the town board will be declaring lead agency, and they prepared an in EAF, I believe, that will then be acted on in the near future by the town. Is there a declaration as to the type of action that this is, a type 1 or a type 2 or an unlisted?
They're going to answer that for you.
They're going to answer it, meaning?
They're going to take your question and answer it at the end of the
Okay,
comments.
because when they were hired back a year ago, it was declared a type 2 action. So I'm presuming then that this is being carried out under the guidelines of a type 2 action. As, the resolution was Resolution 534, dated July 6, 2011. Now, therefore, be it resolved, it's deemed a type 2 action pursuant to 6 NYCRR 615C 18 and 21. So I'm presuming that this is currently considered a type 2 action at this point?
You keep asking, and I'm telling
Okay.
you that they're going to
All right.
answer at the end.
Okay. Just get back here. Under the original resolution, when this quote-unquote study was started and it was deemed a type 2 action, it basically referred to 2 sections of the code, actually of SECRA, under 617. And what it referred to was 617.5, and what they had referred to under SECRA was, let me just find a page here, I'm sorry. I just got my page correct. 617.5, here it is. That basically, what that refers to under SECRA under Type 2 is information collection, including basic data collection and research, water quality and pollution studies, traffic counts, engineering studies, surveys, subsurface investigations, and soil studies that do not commit the agency to undertake, fund, or approve any Type 1 or unlisted action. So it says basically you're just gathering data, which is not a study. Under item 21, which was also in the original resolution, it says conducting concurrent environmental, engineering, economic and feasibility studies and planning studies. So that's where it does dovetail in, but it also says that will not commit the agency, being the town board, to engage in or approve such action. So if this was started as a Type 2, this whole study, I don't believe you're in conformance with SECRA at all at this point. I think that under, if you look back at the minutes to the meeting of July 6th, and I'll reference them into this hearing, on minutes page 682, I had brought this up to the town board's attention prior to the meeting. At that meeting, Councilman Wooten said that they did take a hard look, and that basically all you're doing is looking at gathering data, information collection. That's right in the minutes of the meeting on page 682. Subsequent to that, Mr. Hanley came in, and the discussion relative to whether this was type 1 or type 2 ensued. And basically, what had happened was we had noted that if you were to adopt something, that it would then be a type 1 action. And at that point, the supervisor said you would have to look at it a second time. Rick Hanley came up and noted that, and I'll just read this, it's very brief. The recommendation for type 2 came out of the planning department. Basically says data collection, studies, and the like are type 2 actions. They make a distinction between actual data collection and studying and eventual implementation. So then what was noted during the meeting by the supervisor is, and from there, use SECRA, and this is where the difference is. So basically what Mr. Hanley said, don't want to read it because I don't want to bore everybody, but it says, if there were implementation issues at the end of the day, that's where we'd have to make another SECRA decision, okay, being type 1 versus type 2. And that was correct at that stage. It was premature to talk about being type 1 or type 2 at that time because you were only supposedly collecting data, starting a preliminary study. Now you're at that time. You know, you went from collecting data and doing a preliminary study, and now you're changing zoning, which is definitely falls under a type 1 or an unlisted action. It is not a type 2 action. That is highlighted, and I'll just want to highlight it for the record. On part 617.5b, when they refer to, then this is type 2 actions. This is under the very first part of type 2 actions. It says, each of the actions on an agency type 2 list must, it doesn't say, it says it must, in no case have a significant adverse impact on the environment based on the criteria contained in 617.7c. So if you go to 617.7c, it says the creation of a material conflict with community's current plans or goals as officially adopted or approved, as in the master plan. So it seems clear that this is a type 1 action. After the meeting in July, I contacted the DEC to see if there was there could be a valid challenge to the resolution when this was started. And they said, realistically, if the town claims they're only gathering data, that's what they're doing, the DEC will basically give you the leeway. So if they say that, if you post a challenge, we go to them, they say, we're just collecting data, we're not changing anything, they'll side with you. But the DEC said, if they decide they want to change something as part of that study, then they're going to have a problem. It's going to be a type 1 action. Now, a type 1 action is going to require the information to be distributed to other involved agencies. It's going to require a scoping hearing. It's not going to require an EAF. It's going to require a DEIS and eventually a FEIS. So it's a whole different set of rules that apply to this action if it's type 1 versus type 2. With regard to the article, and I just want to highlight one other thing, because I actually agree with one thing that Ms. Mendez said earlier tonight when she talked about the study not encompassing the entire scope. And she actually quoted some sections of SECRA saying that, I guess it was segmented because it didn't include all of the areas it should have. I'll just refer to a letter that was in the paper this past week on a guest spot in the Riverhead News Review, where it was noted by Mr. Amper. I'll read the second paragraph. I can think of no decision with larger importance than the future of the hamlet of Wading River, which will land on the town board members this coming Tuesday. And the impact will spread well beyond the rural hamlet in the western part of town to all Riverhead town hamlets whose fates loom large before them. I happen to agree with that also, as well as Ms. Mendez, that would be the case, that it would go further. After this first step is taken, another will be taken, and another will be taken. If you refer to the very first section of SECRA under 617.1, the authority, the intent, and the purpose, the actual purpose of SECRA, okay, has to do with in determining public policy, okay, that you have to incorporate all of the actions and activities associated with an action, and that may reasonably be deemed to result from this action, okay, as a policy decision. So when you go through all of the requirements of secret, and then you get into the section with regard to segmentation, it says that you have to take into account all of the variables. And if you don't, in making a determination, you have to provide a written to reason elaboration as to why you're not incorporating all of those areas. I think that when you do this, which area is going to be next? Is Jamesport going to come in and say, we don't want this? Or on the flip side of the coin, are the people in the rural corridor that have no zoning, are they all going to band together and say, you know what, we want more zoning. We want more choices. What it amounts to is, as a legislative body, as the town board, okay, you were the ones that are going to give all of this information under SECRA a hard look. That's the backbone of a SECRA evaluation, is the hard look by the lead agency. And you're going to set a policy. So when you change the zoning here, you're saying that the policy of this town and this lead agency, this town board, is get your petition, come to us, and tell us what you want, and we'll do it. And people are going to keep doing it later on and later on. And that you cannot have, because that will fly in the face of the master plan, and it will just start here, and it will not stop. So I would recommend against the whole thing. Thank
you. Sir, state your name and hamlet for the record.
Well, I'm Wading River. Here, my name is Father David Bertolotti, representing my mother. My brother lives here. My father died 8 years ago, and my mother is very old, and when she dies, my brother and I will inherit the property. I don't live here, but I come here every week to help her, and perhaps I'll retire out here, but my brother does work here, and I live here, so we do have a vested interest in this whole thing. Now, as a priest, I do teaching, and I always say that if you're going to be a good teacher, you got to be willing to make...
Where were you during the invocation?
Was there an invocation? I came in a couple of minutes late, but I got most of it. But I always say, if you're going to be a good teacher, you got to be willing to make a fool of yourself. So if you want to laugh, you can laugh at what I say, because maybe what I'm saying is really stupid. Maybe I don't know. I'm just kind of taking a big look at this, and I'm going to be brief, so don't worry. My first experience with Wading River was in 1971. When they had the tercentenary, and I remember that very well. I was a little kid at the time, and it was 300 years old. This town is older than the United States of America, and it said if a historic town becomes a modern metropolis or something like that with all this stuff that's going to be built. Now, as I'm listening to all this, and I've read about it and heard about it, I say, well, why? What is the purpose of all this? I never seen so many houses for sale in Wading River. Almost every street you see a house for sale. You're going to build more houses? We got stores all over that are closed, empty spaces. You got plenty of place for more stores. The taxes. People pay a lot of taxes. Now, it's written, I've read, that maybe the so-called Bush tax cuts may not be renewed. The taxes in New York City are going to New York State are going to skyrocket if you read about it. And then if the so-called Obamacare has a whole bunch of taxes with it, the people's taxes are going to skyrocket. How are they going to afford to go to any restaurant or any store? It's going to siphon off jobs from Riverhead, and and you say more jobs. They're going to be losing jobs out there. There are people here represent small businesses. They're going out of business. One lady just said here she's going out of business, and the pizza shop's going out of business. So what's going to happen? We got open stores. I don't see the benefit. And further, yeah, maybe the government will get more taxes. Maybe if the stores don't close up and have boards over them, I don't know how they're going to stay in business. Just maybe I'm really stupid, but this is just some things that come to mind. And then we also have to recognize you got a lot of fancy stuff up there and used a lot of fancy language. Thankfully, this man, I don't know his name, was very good in giving us a grassroots kind of understanding. But the thing is, How do we know that stuff is all true? The people putting that up have a vested interest in this, obviously. So, who knows how true all these statistics are? 6 kids, 4 kids, whatever. I don't know. But my bottom line is that, bottom line, I'm going to stop. I know people say I preach too long. I'm going to stop. But my point is, the last time I looked, this is still a democracy. If the people of Wading River don't want it, stop it. Don't let the government roll over you and give you a bunch of baloney. You can stop the whole thing if you want to. And that's my last point.
I don't know, Ms. Hartnagel, that's a tough act to follow right there. I just want to know on Sunday, do you get out in 60 minutes? Because my grandparents would not be happy if you're not out in 60 minutes, Father. Ms. Hartnagel.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jen Hartnagel, and I'm speaking on behalf of the group for the East End. I want to begin by thanking the town board for bringing us to this stage within the process. I know it's been a long year, and I want to add that we support the proposed map amendments, the rezoning texts, and the comp plan amendments, but I wouldn't be doing my job, and I certainly believe this, that I think the town board can and should do more. It's been made abundantly clear that this community sincerely cares about the hamlet's future and its desire to retain community character and the environment, and that additional retail centers are not what's needed or wanted. And I have to reiterate this point and echo what the RNPC supports, in that I believe the town board should reconsider certain parcels or areas to be rezoned from BCR to MRP to further reduce the retail use. And I make these suggestions with the following facts in mind. The economic analysis cites the need for an additional 88,000 square feet of retail. However, we still have more than 200,000 square feet on the table. And this is left even after you adopt the proposed changes. And this is very problematic. This is in excess, and how can we account for this gap? And I just have to counter the argument that development at EPCAL shouldn't be used as an excuse or the rationale that we need more stores in Wading River. And I also want to echo the concern that Wading River, it was never the intent that this area become a shopping center area for nearby hamlets. And again, this is not in the least important, the community's vision. If you look through the planning documents and the zoning documents dating back decades, it's clear that this is not what the community supports. And can't your constituents count on the town board to protect and foster a sense of community that retains its character and quality of life? The group for the East End has never said don't build anything, and we're not saying that at all. But it's 2012, and Riverhead can certainly do better than commercial sprawl that negatively impacts the community, the environment, and the quality of life when it's in excess. And I think that this is likely the last opportunity that this board's going to have to take a comprehensive look at the planning and zoning issues along this corridor. And so we suggest that you make these slight amendments and adopt what you have on the table now swiftly. Obviously, you've heard it tonight, there's severe development pressure, and that's not going to go away. So if you're going to do it, do it. I do have a few comments since Frank and Todd are here pertaining to the MRP district. The MRP code is left out of the zoning attachments at the end of the chapters, the attachment 108. The attachment 108, so they should probably be added into there. Additionally, we support the RMPC's recommendation to leave the MRP zoning district as is without the option to build multifamily units that are not owner-occupied. And lastly, there should be a slight amendment or clarification to section 108-172 regarding the access and parking. That section states if a mix of uses is proposed, meanwhile the use section details that only one use is permitted. So hopefully that's a loophole we can close there and clarify that detail further tonight. So again, we support these changes and we ask you to do more. I think this, you have it within your authority. It's a matter of will at this point, and I hope you choose to make your decisions based in the sound planning and zoning facts that have been brought before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jay Touche, and I'm from Wading River and a proud resident of the town. of Riverhead. Thank you for the opportunity to address subjects related to today's public hearing. The town board on a regular basis makes important decisions and is sometimes faced with making decisions that have wide-ranging effects. We know that these decisions, in the end, are yours alone to make. We certainly understand that. I believe that as a board, you're again faced with making decisions here that will affect not only a single hamlet and a critical portion of Route 25A in Wading River, but ultimately the township in general. I also believe that a rare opportunity is now present before us that will allow for changes that, for the most part, will be agreeable enough for all parties, whether they be property owners with current development proposals along that road, struggling business owners, future applicants, and a great deal of community members that are concerned about potential tremendous increase in businesses and new buildings within that corridor. So you ask, how is it that we can, for the most part, roughly satisfy all these parties and secure a middle ground solution? The considerations now before you for changes in zoning that will positively reduce the size and type of buildings and their numbers will still allow for a viable alternative for our neighbors to develop their property and reap similar returns for their significant and long-time investments in these properties. Again, considerations for the greater and expanded distances between proposed structures and a roadway with consistent treed and vegetated buffers along the stretch of 25A will help reduce the currently planned and seemingly closer encroachment of buildings, parking lots, and other permanent physical features onto this country corridor. The consideration for expanded agricultural use allowances on existing actively farm or fallow fields is important not only for promoting agricultural uses, but will encourage our neighbors seeking these changes to continue to farm and continue to preserve this important agricultural legacy. These and other important considerations, I believe, when taken as a whole, will create a comprehensive solution that addresses the concerns and needs for all interested parties in many parts, and will help to reduce impacts upon the corridor and the viewshed through Wading River, the westernmost hamlet of our town, and the gateway to the jewel that is the North Fork. These are tough decisions, but when we all work together, we can compromise. Agreeable solutions are allowed to emerge and take hold. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Steve Romano. Intuitively and emotionally, I could agree with what everybody's saying up here. But part of me, after Father spoke about democracy, if my history taught me anything about the Constitution, there's something called property rights. And I think the founders and the framer of this great country, that was number one. And what I really haven't heard, and I have no horse in the race, is were the developers spoken to? And if so, don't they have rights in 2003 if there was a comprehensive plan by the alleged experts and central planners that said this is what you could build there? These folks bought the property. What happens to their property rights? And I think I said that at the last meeting. If the people of Wading River or whoever want reduced growth in building or actually would like nothing there, then I think maybe that group should sit down with the developers and see if they can negotiate a deal with the developers. And I don't know where they get the money from, but that's the only thing that sticks in my claw. Again, I understand everything they're saying. Again, my emotions and intuitively, I agree with them. But when I start to deal with the reality and certain other things that I don't think they're taken into consideration, I just wanted to say, I don't know. And I think that was my question for the consultants. Did they sit down with the developers? And I know Jim just said that, and I don't know where this came from, would they get the same return? And even if they did, I'm not sure that you could force them to build whatever the central planners want them to build them once their rights were there. That's what I don't understand. How do you take somebody's rights away? I know if I owned a piece of property there, I'd be pretty upset if I knew I could make $100,000 building a business and then make 50 building residential. I'm just using that as an argument. And that's the piece of the puzzle that I don't hear. What about the developer's rights?
Thank you, Mr. Barra.
In case you didn't hear him. Do you hear us up in the cheap seats?
We got you.
Okay.
You're sitting in the cheap seats.
I'm in the cheap seats.
Not me.
How are you, Camille?
Camille, how are you doing?
Hi.
Could you state your name and Hamlet for the record?
My name is Camille Neighbor, and I just want to tell you a little about myself.
Okay, bring the mic down. Yeah.
Okay. I graduated Riverhead High School, and thereupon I started working at Beneficial Finance and the Suffolk Theater.
You want to talk to her?
Friday nights, downtown Riverhead was the place to be. People shopping, they went out for dinner, they went to the movie, and then came Tanger and the corporates on Route 58. There went Riverhead. I moved to Wading River in '74. I worked at a place which I started off as a waitress, and then I decided it would be nice to own a place in the town where I live. So I opened up Truffles, which is 28 years old right now. It's a lot of hard work. I'm a sole owner. I'm a working owner. I do 70 hours a week to keep my business afloat. I feel that if there was many more restaurants and whatever, that may hinder on me keeping my business alive. And, when someone puts a lot of hard work into something, it's very hard to have somebody take it away. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank
My name is Stephen Nagler, and I'm from Wading River, and everything I'm about to say is right off the cuff. So if I'm not as eloquent as everybody before me, I apologize. As I was sitting here, I was looking at this mural behind me, which was from 1976 or so it's dated. And I started thinking about all the other pictures in Brookhaven Town Hall and all the offices that are around Wading River. They all show nice scenic landscapes like this. I've yet to see one that shows a boarded up Kmart, a closed down Blockbuster, empty strip malls, vacant parking lots. Nobody seems to really want to show that in their office. They love the farmland, they like the trees, they like the houses. And I think it would be really hypocritical and disingenuous for even this town hall to display a painting like this as inspiration for the community, and on the flip side, let's build all these nice little retail outlets, but we're going to show everybody about the countryside. And I just think that it's a little two-faced. This is what we're going to promote that our town looks like, that Riverhead looks like, that Wading River looks like. Then this is what we should keep.
I'd like to point out something right here, right now. You see that high school over there?
Excuse me?
I'm a councilman. See that high school over there? That's the Pulaski Street School?
This?
Yes. I graduated from that. You see the farmland? I have a farm, so I'm doing my part. So you missed your mark a little bit.
All right, next.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by I missed my mark.
Okay, sir, are you done? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Next
It's not
speaker.
hypocritical.
Next speaker, calm down.
It's not hypocritical, I'm saying. Yeah.
Do you want to do that from your seat, Mr. Danby?
Yeah, just bring the microphone over to him.
Will that one?
Okay?
Don't get a stroke.
We'll try not to.
Keep your blood thin.
Are you suggesting alcohol? Doesn't that keep your blood thin?
Well, if it works. No, I want to comment on this complex subject.
Gordon Danby.
Gordon Danby, Wading River.
Put the microphone closer, sir.
Okay, I'll try that again. Gordon Denby, Wading River. I came to this area in 1956, and our state highways, which are by and large the same as now, worked. And we have Riverhead and other major towns for significant activities you couldn't get in a local area, small hamlets. It was a pretty good deal. And then all the wave of overpopulation developed. Thank God it basically stopped at the shores, which is Wading River really, of Riverhead. And I have some comments on how our zoning has to face some of this. Well, first a little anecdote. In the mid-60s, I went to the town board with other people from the Wading River Civic, and we were looking for zoning. And a bunch of very prominent, I'm sure decent, local citizens preempted the meeting, came and pushed the people like you guys out of the way and sat there and called us communists. Now, we were asking for a quarter-acre zoning. I'm telling this story for a reason. I mean, obviously society evolves. Their descendants now probably, like everybody else, go for some limited zoning, almost all, unless they're trying to make money selling land which they can't make. So I bet their descendants would now approve of some level of zoning. It evolves. And we have to evolve again. If you look to the west, all the local governments totally screwed up everything. If you try to use the state highways, they're impossible. All the curb cuts and endless lights. You want to go to Smithtown, it takes you half a day. And it's not as far as Patchogue, according to your signs. And so there's got to be something different done about all this. I'm not opposed to all zoning. I mean, the up at the old factory on Sound Avenue, turning that into a place to prepare vegetables is certainly a good zoning action. I'll even say that I think that the East Wind is a good one of a kind activity for the town, and that if you look at, most of you were there, the meeting where people spontaneously come out, nobody organized that, to St. John's Hall a winter ago, I think it was, sometime back there. They were just all saying spontaneously what I think is the feeling of people, that we can't no longer let developers and their lawyers threaten the board that they're going to sue you. In fact, you are in charge. And the planning board isn't in charge. They're your helpers. You're the ones that are legally our leaders. And you should insist on making the final decisions. And you don't only represent people who want to develop something, which is an honorable trade to a point, but you also represent the outpouring of citizens, because they are the people. And we need to change our zoning, or inevitably, when the economy gets going again, the East End will just end up like the West End, oversaturated. And that's inevitable unless we have different rules. And I would suggest that we start to take a point that a zoning change has to serve, by ultimately your judgment, or you can ask some people to help you, the good of the community. Because you can own your own land. It's an ancient premise that your own place is your property, and that's a good one. It makes us free. But when you start to develop it, or change it, or sell it to somebody else to build God knows what, you're really doing things that are also the community's business, or else you can argue the pros and cons of these things, and it is difficult. But you know damn well if you don't have rules, you'll end up with a lousy deal for everybody, as been said right here. So you have to change zoning to consider the merits of what's being done, not that it's some God-given right, because I don't think it is. God made the land, we didn't. And we should make the rules that a project is judged by its value, and the value should mean not building endless repeats that end up destroying everybody. If somebody comes forward with a zoning change that's good for the community, good for society, then yes, you should look on it with favor. But nobody should have the right, because he says, I own the land. I own, my wife, a lot of acreage, and we gave it to Peconic Land Trust, and we're not rich for just this reason. I mean, we're only here for a few years, as I can begin to attest to. I can hardly walk. But the world was here before us, and it'll be here after us. And we should consider this difficult job, but you have the authority, nobody else does. And that to try and put standards for zoning where the opinion of large number of people, like everybody was impressed, including me, and surprised, pleasantly surprised, all the people who turned out at St. John's Hall a year or so ago. And that has to be, that's part of your duty too. All these are your citizens. And they're just, it's an honorable thing to build things, and some of them are very good. But if they're just repetitive, endlessly repetitive, or building more of the same when you don't need the damn thing, then it should be changed, or the whole East End will end up being flooded like the West End. And I don't think many of you want that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sid Bell.
Tough act to follow. I'll try to be very, very brief. The Wading River, Sid Bale, President of Wading River Civic Association, we support the amendments and the changes to the comp plan. We have a few suggestions and one area of concern that has come up. I'm particularly under MRP happy to see that agricultural production and its accessory uses is included. You know, back before my time, all of 25A was farms. We have two farms in the Riverhead portion of in that particular section, Bernie Mays and John Congella's. And I think I can speak for many people in the community. We'd like to keep them vibrant and see the tradition passed on. In terms of the alternatives, professional offices and multi-family condominiums, and that's the way it was expressed back in 1989, condominiums, owner-occupied condominiums. In the revision that's suggested, they talk about townhouses and as well as multifamily condominiums and multifamily. I want to make very clear, we strongly oppose that multifamily units. It opens up the door to many varieties of rentals. I think the owner-occupied condominiums have worked well in Wading River, and it ain't broke. And There was no demand for it in any of the public meetings that I went to. It's not compatible with existing housing tenure in Wading River. The Rutgers study indicates that with rental units, although I think the school district could absorb it, there is a slight difference in terms of the number of children that they send to the schools. And again, this is not anti-family, anti-kids. We have two ourselves. We're going to keep them, and although they're quite grown, etc. In terms of townhouses, as long as they're owner-occupied, we would support it. They could be done very, very well. Now, if you adopt a zoning change and you include the provision for rental units, I want to make clear it's on you, not on us. It's not like, well, you got what you asked for. No one asked for that, okay? This will work. Multi-family condominiums and or townhouses. Very quickly, we favor the zoning changes on the parcels that were mentioned, but realistically, and you know it yourself from the study, the urbanomics analysis, we've got a lot of potential retail. Maybe it'll never be developed, but if a good portion of it is developed, Wading River will be a very, very different place. Now, the point was made, and I hadn't thought about it, because it was brought up about the amount of money that, hardworking, Mr. Barra, pays in taxes, and he is a hardworking individual, and that is important to the community. And it's kind of like, I guess what I'm talking about is gut check time. What's important? If we have one scenario where it is more financially advantageous, or the protection of certain values and the character of the community. It's something that I think many of us feel very, very strongly about. I think the alternatives that we're proposing are tax positives, and that's something to keep in mind. Mr. Danowski raised the issue of multifamilies being too close to the road, et cetera. And I believe Dominique Mendez presented you with a position paper from the consultant, Lisa Ligori, talked about various ways that they could be better screened, not only more attractive to the people who would live there, but also the people who would pass by. You don't need the same kind of visibility that a retail business needs if you have a professional office or a multi-family residential condominium. I want to thank you all, and it's been a long road, and I guess we have some more to go, but we feel very strongly about this, and we're not trying to hurt anyone in the process. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Fontana. I'm a resident of Wading River, and I'm here because I love Wading River, as I think most everyone in this room does. I support a lot of what has already been said, so I'll be very brief, but I just felt I had to speak at least for a minute. I support you changing the 5 parcels that you're talking about, but that is only a tiny step in the right direction. You need to do more. There's so much more retail space that could be developed, and it will ruin our hamlet. So I'm really begging you to do more. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Fred Hack.
Can you raise that mic up, please? Thank you.
My name is Fred Hack, Wading River. I'm not that eloquent. I'm not that smart. Okay. Mr. Dunleavy, you described a situation earlier today where you describe the road, the 25A in Wading River, and there's an ice cream parlor, used to be an ice cream parlor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Have you ever driven that road?
Have I ever driven that road?
Absolutely.
I'm there all the time.
Yeah, we're not gonna, sir, we're not gonna get back and forth. We're not doing that.
Not a problem. Okay. Well, I don't think you've driven it in a weekend in October. Okay. Now, you have a weekend in October, and if you go approve commercial property, how are their customers going to get into their businesses? Well, they've got to do it by this thoroughfare, this, let's see, what do they call it? Country corridor. Well, they're not doing it weekends in October. I know that for a fact, because I can't get there during the weekends in October. So the next request will be, we put in all of this commercial space. We're giving you all of this money. We want to improve the roads. You're not here to improve the roads, you're here to maintain the roads. Okay, improving the roads basically destroys the quality of life. How can I explain that? Well, we can start at Veterans Highway and 25 in Comac, which then goes into the Smithtown Bypass. These used to be country corridors. Okay, we then go from the Smithtown Bypass up 347. And because we had to have commercial space, why, I don't know, but we had to have commercial space, we then took 347 and extended it in Port Jefferson, Port Jeff Station. And the only thing that is saving the hamlet's future right now is one light at Shoreham-Wading River High School. Because if people can actually drive the road, they might want to go there. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? Dick?
My name is Richard Amper. I'm not here speaking on behalf of the Long Island Pine Barren Society. I'm not here speaking on behalf of RNPC. I'm a resident of Lake Panamoka and not a resident of Riverhead Town. I don't think that it's relevant that I live 1.5 miles south of Route 25A and other people live 1.5 miles north of it and they have a concern and I don't. What we're concerned about is the 1.5 miles in between from the border of Brookhaven Town to Sound Avenue. I've been here for 40 years. And during most of those 40 years, I've been working to try to keep communities from being overdeveloped, not anti-growth. I don't know anybody who's in the environment that prefers a recession or would like to have 3 jobs or doesn't mind losing his house. We're all concerned about economic growth. We just haven't seen very much of it. This is opposed to, we've heard over and over again tonight. I want to talk about some of the things we heard tonight, and then I want to tell you what I think we could still do. We keep hearing about how growth is good, growth is progress, and most important, growth is good for taxes. When the economy gets bad, we hear it twice as loud. But we don't have to imagine what this growth is going to look like 10 years from now. We just have to drive back 10 miles, we can see it. Are the taxes low in eastern Brookhaven, western, Smithtown, Huntington? If non-stop development was going to work, it hasn't really delivered on that promise. You people have the opportunity to say, we need balance, a balance that doesn't exist to the West. We're not stopping progress. We're not anti-money. this town has a reputation for being pro-development. And I want to say something that will surprise you in a minute, but I want to talk about what we've heard from other folks. First, let's deal with the legalities. I'm not a lawyer. I don't even play one on television. The fact that the Nightland proposal was in litigation has no basis in reason or law for its exclusion from consideration. And I think you probably will find when you start deliberating, after you've heard all of what everybody's had to say and what you heard at the church and the letters that have been written and the hard work of the environmental and civic people here, I think you'll sit back and say, all right, well, what do we do? How do we strike that balance? How are we fair to the developers who are our constituents, but how are we not, in fact, obliged to provide government of, by, and for the people, not of, by, and for developers? That's not your function, and you know that. We heard from Mr. Danowski earlier that the Partridge proposal was developed with the expectation of continued existing zoning. No, it wasn't. They brought the project forward when they knew that you were considering changing the zoning. That's what happened there. We've heard tonight about property rights and the legal responsibility to provide for property rights. I want to talk about property rights. I want to talk about Dominic Mendez's property rights, and Jen Hartnagel's, and yours, and yours, and yours, and maybe selfishly mine, because what goes around comes around. If the property values go down because we've created a bad Wading River, we're all impacted. So you took an oath of office to represent the people's interest, and there are more people on the planet than there are developers. The other thing I want to say that has been misrepresented throughout this process, and that I know you now know, but I want everybody in this room to understand, that in New York State, judges do not substitute their judgment on local zoning matters for town boards. You, under law, have the authority to make that decision. That's what these folks, and not myself, elected you to do. You have the authority to do it, and the only time they ever overrule you is if you haven't thought it out, if you don't have a rational basis for doing it. And you have heard from 400 people in Wading River, and all of the people that have come out, and everybody who's talked to you since then, all of the reasons why you need to consider the impact. And when you do that and you explain in your finding statement why you've done right by the people of Wading River and Riverhead Town, the courts will stand and defend you, as we all will. Now I'm going to say something that's going to surprise you. I don't think anybody in this room will disagree that the 5 people in this board have sat in rapt attention to everything that was said here, whether it was pro-development or pro-community. And what I'm going to say that will surprise you is, I read the paper and I read about the hard knocks, and sometimes I give them, but in this process, I have been more appreciative of the thoughtful consideration the members of this town board have given this issue. I think you know, I think they know that this is one of the most important things they're going to do in their capacity on the town board, and I've experienced it personally. Mr. Gabrielson is a businessman, and he caused me, as a result of my conversations with him, to go back and examine the economic impacts on the people who are here in Wading River running businesses now and those who will come. And those people explained to me what he got me thinking about. And that was, it's not as though Mr. Barrett is not going to succeed, but Mr. Zumas is. The problem is that it's one Wading River. It's a 1.5 mile stretch, and what one guy does affects the other guy. And so everybody's hurt if this doesn't make economic sense. I know that people will come and tell you, this is my property and I have the right to do what I want with it. And if I make a mistake, that's my business. No, it's yours and it's ours. I talked to Miss Giglio, who visits Wading River many times a week, and she understands how business is working, and she's the pro-development person on this board. But she has taken initiative beyond anything that I've asked her to do to say, how's this work if we don't get it right? She has made suggestions, including some that I want to talk about before I'm done, that aren't just build anything, anywhere, anytime, that goes to the heart of how traffic works and how people feel and the interaction between people and businesses. I'm very appreciative of the thoughtfulness that I've gotten and the consideration that I've gotten from these two people. Mr. Walter, you may not agree with everything he says, and God knows I don't. But he chose Wading River, and he cares about Wading River, and our job is to make him understand our view, and he knows full well that there is too much retail still planned for Wading River. And he knows that the town board hasn't worked that out. It has to do with the town board members' views and politics and all kinds of stuff. But he knows it's a problem, and it's not too late. This public hearing is supposed to give you a chance for one more pause, one more, who said it, hard look at what's at stake and how we need to reconcile that. How do we find the balance between the private property rights of developers and the private property rights of our citizenry, and how do we balance the quality of life rights of everybody in Wading River and beyond? We've seen the mistakes of the past. How can we just do it again? Not here. This place matters too much to you. Mr. Dunleavy has been listening in ways that I hear very few political people west of here listen. They don't listen. They plug their ears and they look the other way. And he has been listening to people and has altered his view as we've gone along to say, no, that made sense. We don't owe this thing to that person, and we do owe this to people. He's listened. And Mr. Wooten, who knew Wading River before I did, and I've known it for 40 years, is the man who most appreciated what Wading River was and put that foremost in his mind in terms of what it's going to be. So we're asking you to consider a couple suggestions. You've heard people agree with a lot of what you've proposed, but if the deal is to try to figure out, if indeed you acknowledge that we do not want overdevelopment, too much retail that hurts not just the people who live there, but the people who have businesses there that have their life's investments made in these projects, you ran for office. I don't have the nerve to do that. But you took on the responsibility to sort that out for them and for us. And so it makes eminently good sense, and this has come from people sitting right here, that we need to reduce that over retail development, and we can do that in the same way that you are doing it with the MRP on the north side of the area across from King Cullen, by allowing for professional offices west of Wading River Road. We don't continue to sprawl. You just drive. Jody, when you drive past, go past Wading River and hang a left and get down and have a look at Route 25. You know, as well as anybody on this board, that's not what you want for your hometown, and none of us does. So let's continue the MRP instead of the business CR. And let's stop putting bumper stickers in our car that say Save Wading River. I think we need bumper stickers that say Save John Zumas. Because the consultants recommended the acquisition of that property The Zumases didn't want it acquired. But they also understood the value of MRP there. The same thing that's working to keep retail from failing in Wading River on the north side should work on the south side. It should work for the west side as well as the east side. You know that. I don't know whether you can reconcile. I think that Sean Walter is right. Oh my God, I said it. I don't think I've ever said that before. I'm not sure I ever thought it. But I think he's right in one respect, and that is you haven't resolved the problem of too much retail. So try. Remember what you heard from these people. Remember what you heard from them when you were in Wading River with them. You know enough about this job to know the job's not quite finished yet, but I am not among those who believe that you do not want to do it and do it right. I do not. I told you before that I have been working professionally to try to protect water quality, which continues to decline, so haven't done a perfect job on that. We protected the Pine Barrens. That's really an enormous accomplishment, and it's made Long Island a better place. This is very personal to me because I view Greater Wading River as my hometown, and if I can do all that I've done and put all the effort and make all of the visits to town halls and to the county legislature and to Albany, if I can do all of that for all of Long Island, it would be really heartbreaking not to be able to do it for my hometown. And verily I say to you, when you're done serving on this town board, what you do on this issue, because it will affect every other hamlet in this town, what you do, if it's different from what everybody else has done, will be the most important thing to you that you will ever do in your life.
Anybody else wish to be heard tonight? Okay.
So we transcript of this?
Yeah, folks, start lining up because we're gonna, as soon as Frank comments, that's gonna be we're gonna be just leaving it for written comments. So go ahead, Mr. Kinsella.
My name is John Kinsella. I'm from Wading River. I first want to thank Mr. Danby for his comments regarding owning property. It's the way I feel, but unable to put into words. We farm one of these parcels that you're considering changing the zoning on. We're continuing the work my grandfather started quite a few years ago, and it looks like it'll go on after me. The next generation is already getting involved. Referring back to this February meeting, one of the main requests from the people in the community was to see agriculture remain in Wading River, whatever's left of it, and even possibly grow. In order for me to be able to do that, it would sure be a lot easier if I wasn't surrounded by retail development. So the Kinsella farming family approves the zoning changes that you're proposing here tonight, from business CR to MRP, and we hope you do them as quickly as possible and most importantly without exception. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ken Barrow, Jamesport, New York. I'd like to thank all my friends coming out tonight here to help me endorse my project. Let me just take this down for a second. Can I ask you a question? How many people shop at King Cullen here?
Kenny, can you address us, please?
Well, these are the people that have come here to talk tonight, so I'd like to also include them in the conversation. I think it's a little rude to have my back to them. You don't mind if I would stand this way, do you? Is that okay? Would that be okay with you, Mr. Supervisor?
You're addressing the board.
Okay. Can I ask you a question? How many people shop in King Cullen?
Kenny, we're not.
No? I can't?
We can't make that part of the record. It's the people that speak at the microphone. That's part of the record.
Okay, so we have an issue of supply and demand. Sid, Can you help me out with this a little bit with the economics? What I'm trying to make a point of is supply and demand. Let me see. If you go to King Cullen and you take 20 items from King Cullen and you go to Stop and Shop it further down the road east and buy the same 20 items, I'm sure you're going to see there's a significant price difference in the items. Why? Because there's only one King Cullen, one shopping center to go to. Now, I'm also sure that the people in the audience also have presented numerous coupons to King Cullen and Wading River and were denied using them. We don't accept them here. We don't have to accept them here because we're the only game in town. So we're not talking about an issue of just taxes. We're also talking about paying higher dollars because the landlords, the tenants are going to be paying more, and so on and so on. But before I start putting you all to sleep, my father raised me old school. He told me that if I worked hard and you became successful, if you worked hard, you could become successful. My father, had passed years ago, was decorated with many medals. The name of the restaurant, in case you don't know it, is Desmond's Inside the Inn. He fought for this country and was a disabled vet his whole life. I chose to buy a couple of pieces of property in the area for investment purposes. I'm not a developer. I have 5 children, in case you don't know that. I have a 32-year-old daughter, an 8-year-old daughter, a 4.5-year-old daughter, a 2.5-year-old son, and an 8-month-old son, and soon to be a grandfather. Now, you could say he got a little crazy in his old age, which
some would say.
Some would say, okay. I work every day of the week. You could call Eastwind any day. 7 days a week, I'm there, and you could be put through right to me. It's much easier to get a hold of me than the supervisor. I answer my phone on a daily basis, and if I'm not answering my phone, it's because I'm out of town. I do get a couple of days off every now and then. The point that I'm trying to make is that we're not just developers. We're people, we're part of this community. I've been here almost 40 years. My family's been here. My children go to school here. Some will be going to school here. These kids will be going to college, hopefully. This is my livelihood. This is what I do for a living. And the part that gets me, which my father's turning over in his grave, and what he fought for this country, is for me to have the right to buy something. I'm not here before you with a residential piece of property asking you to rezone it to commercial. I was here 9 years ago when the gentleman, the supervisor, was also part of the team, and a lot of people in this room were part of the rezoning that took place, and the master plan was implemented. And now 9 years later, you want to change it again. And then 9 years later, you're going to change it again? You got to be kidding me. You really have to. You people have no idea how hard the small business people work. We are what's keeping this country alive. Small business people, like myself. We work 7 days a week. And whether I agree with, from Truffles, she's here 30 years, 7 days a week. We don't have 45-hour work weeks. We don't get pensions. We're not cops that get pensions and our health insurance paid for us after retire after 25 years, or school teachers. We're self-employed. Everything we must pay for. And we also support, in addition to that, every other thing that comes along with the county and the state, including additional unemployment, MTA taxes, and so on and so on. We get hit with this as small business people. And I really got to tell you, I've been here for 40 years. I know a lot of people in Rocky Point, Shoreham, Wading River customers that come to my facility that I've been friends with and have been friends with, and Riverhead. And the people of this town are very hardworking people. But for someone to come in and take a piece of property, which I already did once for you, which means the piece that I did on Sound Avenue, I took a 1/3 beating if we ever do close. I'd like you to sell something that you have for 1/3 of what it's worth. I want you to try to do that. I work hard for my money. I work very hard, and the Zumas family is a family that you can rely on. My father taught me in life, if you can fill up one hand with people in life that you can depend on, you became successful. Listen, if you got time, and by the way, just for a little side note, I also spent 10 years with the hospital in town. I donated a lot of my time and money towards a lot of numerous organizations. I don't like to toot my own horn, but this is done. This is ridiculous. This is the last time that I'm going to speak publicly because I know the newspapers are going to tear me apart. I'm done. I have a family to go home to, and I hope you all enjoy your life. Good night.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to be heard tonight?
Hi, my name is Pascal Lewis, and I'm probably one of the newest members in this community. My family moved here about 9 years ago. We live in I think one of the most unique communities in Wading River, which is just adjacent to Camp DeWolf, and I feel extremely lucky and blessed that we discovered this little niche of Mother Earth. And we've said, and I've brought, I have 2 boys, and we've been here, 9 years, and I've watched the gradual development and sort of what, quote unquote improvements, and am always taken back by thinking, this place is so unique. Do they know what they have here? And I keep saying it over and over, and my wife and I say, please, not another, because we live in Manhattan, and we're constantly being told that we're underbanked, we're under Walgreen, we're under Dwayne Reed. If you need to get something and you can go from block to block to block to get the same thing, it doesn't make the place unique anymore. And someone said this place has been around for 300 years, and this summer I've been out here. We usually summer out here, and I mean that's wonderful. And what I've started to discover, I'm driving around trying to find things, cow manure and things like that for the garden. And I've run into farmers, and I'm finding it more amazing each drive. And the discovery that I'm making is that the place is absolutely beautiful. And you guys, I'm starting to realize this coming up William Floyd Parkway and right there at Shoreham Wading River School, it's sort of like, I'm realizing it's sort of like that's the gate. That's you guys are, and then I'm realizing that you guys are gatekeepers, and you're really going to have to make this hard decision whether you want, like so many of the people who came up here before me said, do you really want what looks like it looks back in the West? I mean, you have something unique, and I think you should work from that uniqueness and try to derive the tax dollars from that, and and come up with better ideas, because it's going to be short-term thinking if you think the retail is actually going to generate the income that you feel that you need and we need. I mean, every time we get our tax bill, we are like taken back also. But at the same time, we know what we're paying for. And it's the beauty of this place that we are paying for, and for the next generation, and the generation after that, and the generation after that. People don't want to come to see what they have already seen for the last 50, 75 miles. They won't come. And especially if it gets more congested, they won't come. I mean, like one of the gentlemen was saying about October, we know not to go up onto 25A in October. It's like, so you're not going to win by putting in more retail. It's not a win situation. I mean, if you do it right, you do it uniquely, then maybe you're going to gain something. But just the same cookie cutter stuff that we get in the city, that people go, oh, this is another one. I can get one. Should we get it now or should we get it later? We'll get it when we come back. No. Make the place a destination. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be heard tonight? Is that no? All right, Frank. I think nobody else is coming up. Frank, if you could address most of it, I don't know that you could address, but the secret stuff and
Yeah, I
the
was
things.
curious about the type 1, type 2.
Yeah, I think there were 21 speakers, but the 8th speaker raised a very important question, which you just mentioned, and that's the State Environmental Quality Review Act, otherwise known as SENCR, and how you comply with it. I agree with Martin that his quote about a type 2 action, when you retained us, you took an action. It's an action. And he quoted 617-521. And I'll just be very brief. Here's what it says. Conducting concurrent environmental, engineering, economic, feasibility, and other studies and preliminary planning and budgeting processes necessary to the formulation of a proposal for action, provided those activities do not commit the agency being yourself, to engage in or approve such action. That's exactly what you did over a year ago when you retained us. That section is called Type 2 Actions. They're exempt from SEQR. And if you all think about that, that makes sense. The legislature did not want to ever prohibit any elected group, whether village or town or city, to not be able to do planning studies. So planning studies are exempt from SEQR. That's what a Type 2 action is. A Type 2 action is exempt. So you acted properly. The quote of your planner, who called it a Type 2 action, was correct, and I think we're in agreement with the speaker. The next question is, you now have, though, developed a study, which you may or may not. You're free to take any action on the proposal before you. After you close this public hearing, you get written comments. You can mull this over. You will take a hard look at the environmental assessment form, and you now have a proposal. That proposal is subject to SEQR. The amendments to the comp plan and the amendments to zoning are Type 1 actions under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. So you have a set of actions. Type 2 is exempt. Type 1 is not. Type 1, and that's what you have before you now, is an action subject to the State Environmental Quality Review Act. However, I want to clarify something that speaker said. Martin said Type 1 actions require generic environmental impact statements. They do not. The Type 1 action does not, I'll say it again, does not require an environmental impact statement. You have to determine, as the lead agency, one thing and only one thing. Does the action before you have a significant adverse impact on the environment? Those are the exact words of SEQR. As you can tell, I have them memorized. Does the action create a significant adverse impact on the environment? You heard our presentation tonight. We not only believe that this action does not, we believe this action has beneficial impacts on the environment. If you were to adopt the comprehensive plan amendments and you were to adopt these zoning amendments, we believe you'll have less traffic, not more. So we believe there are beneficial impacts on the environment to this action. That's what we've said to you. Based upon your judgment, though, of that, not ours, it's got to be your judgment. You decide yourself where you go with this. If it has a beneficial impact or if it has no significant adverse impacts, you can do what's called a negative declaration. That is, you do not need, it's negative, you do not need an EIS. You do not need an environmental impact statement. Okay? That's one choice. The other choice is if you believe there is a significant adverse impact on the environment. It's got to be significant, it's got to be adverse. If you believe there is, then you would make a positive declaration. Positive meaning you have to go to the next step and do a full environmental impact statement. Our conclusion solely as your advisors is that there is no significant adverse impact to this action. But the action, as the gentleman said, is a type 1 action. It's subject to seeker, which is why we've done the environmental assessment form for you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to close out the public comment portion and leave it open for written comment until August 31st. Written comments to the town clerk's office by August 31st. And thank you, everybody, for coming. We're going to take up comments on resolutions only. Thank you, folks.
One change on resolution 646, I think. The date's wrong on the first resolve.
Okay, let's sit.
See if Sid picks it up. Thank you. It doesn't make sense, because we're extending it to a date that's already passed.
646. Okay, what do we? I'm getting.
Did you mean 2013?
Well, thanks. Take care.
March
Okay.
2013 is when you have to request the waiver, and then you can get the waiver through September. Yeah, it is, Chris.
Which one are you? Which one is Chris? All right, let's.
Copies for everyone.
No, let's. We'll go through this. All right, let's go ahead, start, because we want to, even though people, folks, if you could exit as soon as you can, we're going to keep moving. Go ahead.
Sal Mastropolo, Calverton. Resolution 645. The first whereas should be downtown revitalization.
That resolution is going to be tabled.
Okay.
Needs more research.
Okay.
Resolution 646.
Yep.
The therefore be it resolved should be March 29, 2013, I think.
That's the one, right? What else you got?
Resolution 647. My question is, why not effective 8/21/12? It's going to be an administrative nightmare to redo the salary going back.
Every detective in grade after 5 years in the same grade gets an automatic bump, and we miss it.
You missed it?
It's contractual.
Hey, listen.
What happened to merit?
After 5 years in grade, that was something that was negotiated years ago. Oh, she's very good, by the way. Evelyn Option.
What else you got, Sal? It's a contractual
She's very good.
Resolution 653. 654, I'm sorry. On the stipulation, the last whereas before the now therefore it is mutually agreed. Mr. Hardiff has indicated that he agrees to the terms of the promotion and assignment.
Getting blurry-eyed.
Where are you? What number?
654, the stipulation.
Right.
The last whereas before the now therefore it is mutually agreed.
Oh, okay, yep. Mr. Harriff has indicated he agrees.
That he agrees. And that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, you got that change, because
So that it's just that his agrees. I'm glad he agrees. All right, let's just run through this.
All right, anybody else on resolutions?
Yes, Steve Romano, Riverhead.
Oh, jeez.
Can
Sorry,
you,
Steve. Getting a little blurry-eyed.
Yeah. Can you walk me through the process of how you come to appoint a zoning board member or a planning board member? What's the process that you use? Do you advertise for it? What do you accept resumes? And how do you make the conclusion of who you're going to appoint?
We accept resumes. We do, we talked about it at various work sessions. Resumes were collected. Sometimes we have put it on, I don't know the last time if it went on the website. I know we have in the past put it on the website. And then we take resumes and do interviews.
Well, just a suggestion. I think you should go above and beyond. It's an important job, whether it be planning or zoning. And there's 35,000 residents that live in Riverhead, 1 million that live in Suffolk County. I'm not sure how many applicants you interview, but I would assume you'd want to interview 10 or 15 for an important job like that. And I don't know if you have,
No, a handful of people.
Okay.
So.
And as far as the remuneration, was there any consideration that, like when you apply for any job, somebody might do it for $2,500? I don't know what the fee that you pay, but
Set by town code.
You
was
can't change that?
6,000.
You can't leave that open, say a maximum?
Town board resolution. It's $6,000 and they do a lot of work. I think it's 6,000, right? I think it's 6,000.
Oh, well, listen, I served on a school board for free. Yeah. Well, I think my point is with the economics the way it is, couldn't the resolution say up to 6,000, that if somebody wanted to do the job for free, or if somebody wanted to do it for 3, that you could consider that when you're making your appointments?
We could.
Just a point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to be heard on the resolutions? Okay, Diane.
Resolution 638.
All right. CDBG Consortium 2010 budget adjustment, so moved.
I thought we were going to table.
No, it is 2010. This was old money. It's not the new money that I was talking about before, so Jill came and told me that. So we're okay with this.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 639.
2012 Law Enforcement Facility Improvement Budgeted Job Adoption. So moved.
Roll.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
As long as I get a key, yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 640.
Cableton Recreational Park Project Budget Adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 641.
Highway District budget
Table.
We're
budget
going to
adjustment.
table this one.
Table it.
What's happened is this money is the tipping fees. John Reeve pays to have highways rubbish removed. This really should be in John Reeve's line, not the highway department's line, and then John Reeve would charge back the highway department. Well, if we move all this, he can't charge highway department back, and this is the entire account, so we can't move this.
We have to look at it. I'm not sure.
This is reversed.
So can we get a motion to table this, please?
I make a motion, we table resolution number 641 for the Highway District budget adjustment. So moved.
And second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes to table.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The resolution has been tabled. Resolution 642.
Riverhead Sewer District budget adjustment, so moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 643.
This authorizes professional services agreement for final audit of the New York State Parks grant. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 644.
Authorize town to accept bike lockers from New York State DOT. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Sure. Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 645.
A motion to table.
Yep. I make a motion to table resolution number 645. So moved.
And second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The resolution has been tabled. Resolution 646.
Authorize Super to extend 2010 New York State Main Street grant contract as amended, so moved.
Second, Jim.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Vote,
As
please.
amended.
Yeah.
Giglio.
Yes, amend to March 29th of 2013.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 647.
This ratifies the promotion of a detective. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 648.
Accepts the resignation of a part-time police officer. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 649.
Appoints a public safety dispatcher to the police department. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
This is replacing a public safety dispatcher, and it's, we've been doing more with less, so I'll vote yes.
Good funded position, too, on your town.
It is.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes, the
Res-
gentleman passed away that.
Tony Ortello, right?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 650.
Ratifies the appointment of a temporary custodial worker. So moved.
Oh, good. Second.
Yeah, this was just for discussion. I went into one of our workers at the senior center had a stroke, and so he's doing very well, but we need somebody to replace him part-time until he can come back. So that's what this is. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 651.
Appoints member to the zoning board of appeals of the town of Riverhead. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 652.
Ratifies the appointment of a part-time kennel attendant to the police department. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
This is probably to the animal shelter, right? Not the police department. Yes.
Dunleavy.
Probably.
Yes.
Walter.
To the police
They have
department,
dogs,
yes.
right?
Need a kennel attendant?
Resolution adopted. Resolution 653.
Promotes wastewater treatment plant operators in the sewer district. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Ooh. Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 654.
Authorize the supervisor to execute a stipulation of settlement with Civil Servant Employees Association Incorporated, Local 1000, AFSCME, AFL-CIO Riverhead Unit of the Suffolk Local Number 85 CSCA,
This comes
as
under
amended.
the
So
title
moved.
of "We Giveth and We Taketh Away."
That's right, see?
Did you move it?
He moved it. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Could you read that? Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 655.
This authorizes the town clerk to publish and post a help wanted ad for an executive director of the Youth Bureau. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 656.
Authorization to publish advertising for food products for the town of Riverhead. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 657.
Appoints a call-in seasonal beach attendant to the recreation department. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 658.
Authorize the town clerk to publish and post public notice for a public hearing regarding a local law to amend Chapter 26 entitled Officers and Employees of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Publish and post, yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 659.
This adopts a local law to amend the Chapter 101 entitled Vehicles and Traffic of the Riverhead Town Code, 101-7, turns. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 660.
Authorize town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider local law to amend Chapter 108 of the Riverhead Town Code entitled Zoning. That's 108-56.1, and that's sign permits. So moved. We had the two
And
changes.
seconded.
I thought
right.
we weren't voting on this.
Did we,
No, we were going to,
Make
we're
a
publishing
change.
and posting because we're changing the date. We're striking and we changed the pre-existing non-conforming to 1 year from 6 months.
Still publish and post.
Goes to 1 year, right?
no non-conforming sign may be established for no use.
They were,
And everything else was left alone.
that they must comply by October 18th.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, just, it's
Moved
minimal.
and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution
Bob.
adopted. Resolution 661.
Accepts 100% security of Head River LLC Walmart project. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 662.
Accepts donation of 100 trees from Barbara and Jim Cromedy and the Riverhead Raceway for planting throughout the town. So moved.
A second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Thank you, and yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
It's actually 96 trees, because I need 4 of them. Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yeah, I want to thank the Cromedies and the Riverhead Raceway. They had a night where they donated the trees to us. So thank you, and I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 663.
This adopts a local law amending Article 4, Early Retirement Incentive Program for eligible full-time police officers of Chapter 37 entitled Retirement of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 664.
Amends Resolution 611 of 2012. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 665.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute an agreement with Suffolk County for Operation Shield Grant Program. So moved.
And seconded.
There's gotta be one change. I got a call from Suffolk County. It's changed on theirs? Okay.
Moved and
Thank you.
seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes, we're going to get money for from Suffolk County. So I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 666.
Accepts the retirement of the Executive Director of the Youth Bureau. So moved.
I'm afraid. Second. Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Be well, yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
I'm going to vote yes, but I want to say Donna, I hired Donna over 30 years ago to work at Juvenile Aid Bureau, and she did a great job, and this town is going to miss this young lady. So,
Downstairs.
huh?
Downstairs at the time, right?
Yeah, it was downstairs, so I just want to wish her luck, and she's moving out of town. So good luck to Donna.
Walter.
Yes, and thank you for all her hard work and service to the town.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 667.
Approves Chapter 90 application to Church of the Harvest for the Rock the River Car Show for September 8th, 2012. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 668.
Approves the Chapter 90 application of the Long Island Corvair Association, and that's September 23rd, 2012. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 669.
Approves the Chapter 90 application of Garden of Eve LLC, Long Island Garlic Festival. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 670.
Approves the Chapter 90 application of George M. Bartnick Antique Car Show, September 30th, 2012. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 671.
Resolution to authorize the town of Riverhead to donate money to the Riverhead High School Key Club for recycling education programs. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes, the Key Club has taken this on their own to educate people about the recycling, and it's going to help the town with our grade. So we're going to donate some money to them so they can keep doing it. So I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
It's important to find
Resolution
out
adopted.
that this money is coming from recycling.
Yes.
So it's not taxpayer dollars.
Resolution 672.
Authorize town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 108 entitled Zoning of the Riverhead Town Code. That's the parking schedule. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 673.
Approves Chapter 90 application of Railroad Museum of Long Island, and that's the Toy Train Play Days, October 6th and 7th, 2012. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes, this is a great thing for the kids. They have a large train that they ride around their property in, and then they have a large train set that they have in the house that they go around. So if anybody has any kids, October 6th and 7th is a good day to bring them to the museum, the train museum. Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 674.
Authorize the town board. What? What did you say? You said, Authorize the town.
I want to make a change, this, Bob. The senior that had Judy Dahl signing the contract, I think the supervisor's office should sign the contract.
Where are we?
674.
Okay.
But where about?
The first, therefore,
first.
now therefore be it resolved.
Oh, okay, so it's supervisor, not the director of senior. Okay.
The first time I've ever seen that. I don't know why she would do that.
All right?
Yeah.
All right. 674, authorize the town by and through the Town of Riverhead Senior Center to enter into an agreement with Ace in the Hole Productions Incorporated for entertainment performance at the Senior Center as amended. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 675.
This authorizes town clerk to publish a post notice to bidders for calcium hypochlorite tablets. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
I just had a question. I thought we were going to ask if we get this from the Supplementary Water.
I am, but we haven't gotten there yet. I did.
Huh?
It's got the same song and dance I got the last time, but I'm still going to pursue it.
Okay. Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 676.
Resolution officially naming the park located in South Jamesport as Myamog Point Park. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes, this is an Indian name. That point always been named Myamog Point, so we're just keeping it, and we're going to keep it after the Indians that were out there.
Right, it means the gathering of fishermen
Yeah.
in Indian. That's
Yeah.
what Myamog, yes,
That's right.
gathering of fishermen.
Right? I vote yes.
Boat running around it. Yes, I vote yes too, Diane.
Okay. Resolution
Called it
adopted.
Myamog, and the Italians called it Mamma Mia.
Mia, Mamma Mia.
Resolution
bills.
677. Very funny.
What?
Pay bills, John.
Pay bills, not
Jody,
me.
Jody offered pay
Motion,
bills.
we pay the bills.
We got to pay bills?
I moved it.
Oh, seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Okay, Sal, 5 minutes,
Oh,
please.
quick question.
Yes.
I drove past the dog park and I noticed there's a name for that dog park. Was that done by resolution?
I don't think so.
No.
Don't we normally do it by resolution?
I said the same thing when I drove in there the other
Yes.
day. Yes.
We should.
Thank you.
Has to be done.
We will, we'll ratify it.
Okay, does anybody wish to address the board? Not seeing anybody, motion to adjourn?
No, I like it.
So moved.
All in favor, aye, thank you.
That was the second longest meeting we've had.
Yeah.
What's this now?
This is a copy of what was presented.
Legal?
And Jim sitting there, you go down.